people always go like, when you come up with a company or start a company, what do you do? I'm like, I think of an idea and then I just obsess over making a logo.
The hardest part is figuring out what you want to master.
Focus on your product.
Can you tell somebody that they suck?
You gotta just go, this is exactly what I wanna do for a living.
You can't even tell somebody that their breath is life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Short Story Long. Today we have a guest that I'm really excited about, and I was very, very flattered when we were connected and when our friend John told me that you listened to the show. Nick Swinmurn, the founder of Zappos, serial entrepreneur. How else do you describe yourself? I feel like you're a pretty interesting all-around guy. Explorer.
Yeah, I mean, just curious, I guess.
Just a curious dude.
So, I think John nicknamed me the startup addict.
I like that.
Was which I was like, yeah, I guess that's.
Yeah, they have a lot of good nicknames for you too. They were texting me I forget what they were saying, but you're they said you're the super zen entrepreneur.
The zen part's a trip because I'm like, I'm not fucking calm at all. I'm all over the place. And they're like, you're so zen. I'm like, all right,
whatever you say.
I guess can't see the inside.
So I'm excited, man. I think that, like I said, it was really cool to be connected. And I think what's really cool for me is somebody that has accomplished as much as you have to listen to the show and to get some value out of it. And I know you told me that you listened to it with your 9-year-old son?
Yeah, when we're driving to and from school, I put it on because I figure he'll pick up some stuff. You know?
Yeah.
He may not even realize now, but in the future he will. But the trip was, half the time if he says he's not listening, but I can tell he is. But then after a while, he started referring Short Story Long.
That's so cool.
And he'd make a couple comments. Daddy, you got to go on this show one day. I'm like, yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
So.
It's so cool.
No, it's pretty cool.
I mean, for me, not only is that so cool, but it's also so. Like I told you in text, the biggest compliment that I probably could get is that a 9-year-old can listen to it, and a guy who's accomplished so much can listen to it and get something out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because that truly is my goal, and it's nearly impossible to cater to already really successful people and also people who want to learn, but I try to play that gap as much as I can.
Yeah. What's interesting is when I listen to podcasts where it's just someone just ranting do this, do this, do this, do this,
Yeah.
or this person did this, it's kind of after a while it just kind of goes in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
Right. So what's cool is what I didn't realize was happening is when I started listening, then I'm learning a bunch from you and the way you're, the answers you're getting out of the guests.
Yeah.
And each of the guests, I'm sitting there going, shit,
Yeah.
I'm fired up. After
That's so cool.
after listening to this, that's actually how I met John.
Was from what?
From listening to the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I reached out to those guys after I heard the podcast.
That's so cool, man.
So.
Those guys are great. So
they're
that's
awesome.
John and Corey
John and
from
Corey.
Max Effort. That was only not that long ago, a month ago or something.
Yeah, and they were so rah-rah. They were just
Yeah.
so intense and at it that I was it got me fired up. But, it probably drives people crazy at the office because, you kind of react to what you just heard.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, hey, I was listening to this podcast about these guys and that guy, this one, and listen to this. And
Yeah.
you've had a good range of, they all have different, things that are interesting.
Yeah, that's the goal, and trying to find the through line between them, right? Because one thing I've noticed when I first started this, I wanted it to be a specific type of entrepreneur, and then I kind of realized that I could interview Kyrie Irving, even with my very limited basketball knowledge, and his story and some of the lessons are very similar to an entrepreneur. And so all these things kind of tie together. So now I look for that. I don't care necessarily who you are. I want to be able to tell a bunch of different stories, but kind of know that anytime you come to Short Story Long, you can at least count on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What were we talking about right before we started that I cut you off and said save it for the podcast?
I was laughing because the last guest who managed Marshmallow, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Mo. I told my son one day, my son's name is Luke, I told him I'd give him a little shout out for him.
What's up, Luke, man? Shout out to you.
And he's 9, and he's I'm like, let's start you should start a little business. Let's just mess around with something, right? So he loves this cat. I don't know if he still does, but he did. I guess he still does. This cat called Pusheen, which is just this little fat cartoon cat. What the fuck? How is this cat so popular? And then all of a sudden I thought he just found it, but it's everywhere, this Pusheen thing. So I'm like, all right, what do you want to do? He's like, let's make a cat. I want to make a little cat. And I'm like, we'll print on some t-shirts and you can just give them to your friends at school and whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll want them. And I'm like, what do you want to call it? And so it was like, we ended up with Meow Mellow, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then my wife was like, Meow Mellow? I'm like, how about, it should be like Meow Marshmallow? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a good idea. So I'm always like, idea, domain name, file trademark application.
It's so true.
Right? Like,
yeah, that's a better.
It's like nonstop doing it. It's
Yeah.
just like, you forget, you get these alerts like, hey, you have 6 months. What the fuck did I file that about?
so true.
But I looked, I did a search, and it was like, oh, there's some, and I'm 45. I'm not like up to date on the latest. I'm still listening to, music from the 90s most of the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm like, there's a DJ called Marshmallow, so we can't do this. It's got to be Meow Mellow.
Uh-huh.
But it's funny that I was listening to
then
the
that
podcast. I'm
came out
like, what
after?
the hell? This guy managed Marshmallow.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so cool. And his story of like how he created it and stuff is just so cool.
It was
It's like
awesome. All the little
creating-
things you would never, would never
Yeah.
think of like, it doesn't have an identity, so everyone can relate to it. And
It's interesting.
all that stuff
man.
was cool. All your episodes have been cool. I'm not just saying it like because I'm here, but I didn't think I'd be here. I just started listening to it, and I was like, I like the pace of it,
Yeah.
and like the learning about people. Because I always tell people, when I was at Zappos, we were doing like when I left, it was like a few $100 million.
Yep.
And my buddy Swinny was starting a mortgage company, and he was renting an office. He was going to hire 2 people. I was so fucking jealous.
Yeah, it's
I was
so
like,
true.
dude, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, everyone will go, why would you be jealous? I'm like, because the starting is the fun part. That's like having a few hundred employees and talking about where to put a camera and what kind of key badge to do on the way out.
Yeah,
That's no fun.
it's so true.
It's just like something that doesn't exist, existing is like
It's
to
the
me,
magic.
the best thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I had a friend who was working on a swim line, and they were over at my house the other night and asking me all these questions and how to get investment and how to do all this stuff. And they're sitting there on their laptop with their samples and sort of some of the putting together the deck for the brand. And she was just going on and on about all of these goals and what she needed to do in swim week and just kind of very high level, like when I make it here, then life will be fun. And I'm like, trust me when I say, just take a second, like map out your plan, map out your goals, be very thorough. But take a second to enjoy this moment sitting on a couch where this couch is your office with a laptop, because this is the moment that you're going to look back on and be like, man, remember when it was that, remember when I had my MacBook Air and any couch was my office? Like that's the funnest part.
Yeah, and it took me a long time to realize, like, I have to force myself to do the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wake up and I go to bed thinking of random ideas, and there's nothing better than going to sleep thinking, holy shit, I just thought of the best idea ever.
So true.
And you're pretty sure that by the time you wake up, it's not going to be the best idea ever.
Yep.
But it's still awesome, right? And you're ready to throw away whatever you got because you're like, that's better than this.
Do you think the difference is the one that you wake up and it still is the best idea ever? Or is there a system for filtering?
I have more where it's like 10 years later, 15 years later, I'm like I still think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so lately I've kind of just been, fuck it, let's just do all these things.
Yeah.
But no, it's, that's the other thing, when I listen to people, I realize like how little I know. But it's like I'm not very good at making plans or like mapping out the future. Or a lot of people ask me questions and they just make these assumptions based on X, Y, and Z, and they're like, well, you must know a lot about this. I'm like, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
You must know a lot about this. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Like, and then when you're okay with that is when you realize like, there's no.
It's so true. I think that
posturing.
like I think setting goals and plans, and obviously when you're dealing with a company and money and all that stuff is very like necessary. But I've also seen now 10 years in legitimately running a business, how much of the magic comes from just following the next step that day. And some of the most successful companies and the explosions of the most successful companies came when you were just cranking. And every day you were just doing something new and it was right and it was going and going and going. And it's like a lot of times you see where these startup or these small companies sell or bring on big investors, and that's when they fall apart because there's too many plans and there's too many strategies, and you know what I mean? And that's what's interesting to me is like, how do you balance, if you walk around my office here, we have about 40 employees and it still feels pretty startup-y. I mean, we have a nice view, which isn't startup-y, but other than that, if this was, a crappy building in downtown LA, this would be a clothing company that just started 6 months ago. And so I want to preserve that feeling in my life as long as possible. I've just seen people exit and bring on money, and you think that's when life gets good. And a lot of times that's when stuff just gets crowded and shitty.
Yeah,
You know?
no, it's true.
Okay, let's get into it, man, because
Okay.
I'm so excited. You know what I do here? Usually I start from the very beginning. So give me like sort of the childhood, what life looked like, where you're from, brothers and sisters. Give me that breakdown.
Yeah, so I was born in England, and I have one brother who's a year and a half younger. I moved to America when I was 7. My dad moved for work, and I guess we came over for 6 months, checked it out. Apparently, while we were here for 6 months, we lost our accents, right? So I remember being in 3rd grade, and there was another English kid that was there, and everyone's like, "You guys both just moved from England? He's got an English accent. You don't have one."
Yeah.
Apparently, we came over and we just imitated like a cowboy accent for 6 months, so it just kind of went away.
That's so good.
But no, we moved over. I was like soccer mad, or football mad when I lived there. That's all I cared about. That's all I thought about. Got here and continued just being like sports crazy, right? Like I found out about basketball. I never played baseball, but we play out in the street with the kids, but never little league. We moved to the Bay Area, moved to a town called Cupertino, and then Mountain View. Ended up in a city called Los Altos for junior high school.
Got it.
Sports career ended. I was the starting point guard on the 8th grade basketball team. So there's 3 schools that feed into high school. And I was like the only guy that wasn't 6 foot, and I just thought, I idolized like Isaiah Thomas, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I might be 6 foot when I don't know. I didn't know when I was gonna stop growing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm gonna be a basketball player. And the first day of high school, went out to the back to play, and this kid, Kurt Cooper, was a point guard for another team, and we played him, but I hadn't really thought about it. I was like, what the hell? He was like the same size as me, hanging on the rim, lightning fast.
Was that the moment you knew?
I was just like, well, I never even tried out. I was just like, fuck it. Like, what's the point?
So
Right? I'm not
funny.
gonna play.
Yeah.
So even that I knew, like, I'm not gonna play. So that's it.
Yep.
So then
I'm fascinated by those moments. A lot of
Yeah.
people, I always ask, a lot of people have them, some don't, but like there's always that childhood sort of dream. And there's usually a moment when you realize you didn't have it.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone wants to be a singer, whatever, an athlete or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's usually that moment, and it was Kurt Cooper.
Yeah.
where
Because you always think like you think you'll progress, like things get bigger, but you'll stay the same, right? So I played, whatever, 4th and 5th grade, and then I went to a 6th, 7th, 8th school for 6th grade. But I got to play on the 7th, 8th team. So then when 7th grade, I went over to another school that was just 7th and 8th, but I'd already played them for a year as a 6th grader.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was like, I am so far ahead of this.
Yeah.
And then you get to high school and you realize, it doesn't just, because I always thought, well, if I'm the starting point guard now, and then we go to the next level, maybe I have to wait my turn with someone older, but as long as I just claim this
Yeah,
at
just
this age,
keep
I'm
doing
good.
it. Yeah.
I didn't realize there'd be other kids coming in that were much better. So then I on a whim, I was like, fuck it, I guess I'll do cross country. And I was terrible in practice, and then we had a first race, and I did good. Because in running, I just realized, well, if that's just about run,
Yep.
and how long until you're gonna quit?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's gonna suck and just keep going. So I did that. I thought maybe I'll be a good runner. And then it all fell apart. Like my parents left after my freshman year. I don't know what they were thinking. They left me and my brother home for like a month. They went to England. And I had a buddy that was a little bit older. And he's like, dude, we gotta have a party at your house. Parents are gone. I'm like, I didn't drink or anything my freshman year. I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
No, come on. This will change high school for you. Let me just call a few people. I'm like, all right, cool. Ended up being like a few hundred people, like 5 kegs, like just mayhem.
Yep.
You know? And then the same thing happened a week later. And then my parents got home and they're like, what happened to the back fence? I'm like, what do you mean? You know, there is no back fence anymore. You know, just like stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But then, yeah, when I got to school the next year, it just changed. I'm like, wow, this is so much more fun than what were we doing before this? You know?
So then you were popular.
Popular and just like the drinking and the girls, you know, so you're like, I remember going out for cross country again the next year, and it was just hard because you're like, there's so many more entertaining things to do after school, right? So I turned from the guy that was trying really hard into the guy that was like, we'll start running, I'll go get my car, I'll come get all you guys, we'll go over to this park or go to this house, and there's way more things to do.
That's such a life lesson.
Yeah.
Because at some point, almost everyone hits that. You know, they have that equivalent. You know, when you get some success, then you have like, oh, there's partying and girls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is interesting.
And it's just like, wow, this is like this is way better than anything else. We don't have like, if you don't have sports, you don't have after school. You could do whatever you want.
Yep.
So that was fun. So I had a great time in high school.
So is that what kind of ended your
Athletic
sports career?
Yeah. I mean, I would still like, I would go out. I'm like, I'm gonna play soccer. You know, I still wanted it. So
Yeah.
I'd go out for soccer, and I would like, not make it, and I would just think like, I got screwed. I was way better than this guy in the last tryout, and then I played tennis, and then like I didn't make the singles team, but I made the doubles team, and so we won the JV. Whatever our league was called. Me and my partner, I think it was Kareem. We won the JV doubles tournament. I'm like, all right. And then we had the team dinner, and he got an award, and I didn't.
Why?
And I was like, why didn't I get an award? And it was because you're kind of a smartass with a bad attitude, you know. Like, so it was like, wait a minute, but we both
They
played.
just didn't give you an award, though?
I should get the award. Yeah, he didn't get it. I mean, even my memory of my mom or my dad was pissed, and they went and talked to the coach, and they're like, dude.
They just didn't like you?
So I was just like, okay. But I always thought that. And I remember visiting my dad. I never took much interest in I never thought about like, what do you do all day?
Yeah.
You know? He was an engineer, and my mom was a preschool teacher. And I do remember, I don't know if you remember, but I remember just kind of being like, shit, I'm not going to be an athlete. Not really good at anything else. Like I was an okay student. You know, I had like if you gave me an essay class, I'm good. If you give me a Scantron, I'm in trouble. Yeah. And because I could BS my way through the essay, or I could play the game of like, well, we just write it like this or like this. It was the same way in college.
Interesting.
But then I remember my dad like, well, maybe you. I remember because it seemed so. I felt so dumb when I was like, maybe you can be like an athlete in business, or because I was like impressed when I went to visit him at work. I'm like, wow, you got a lot of people that like you're in charge of, and they look up to you. And he led a meeting, and you know they were all. I'm like, wow, I never really thought about what you do at work. This is pretty cool. Yeah. So I remember thinking like maybe I could be good at business. But, you know, that was it. I think
And they encouraged you to do entrepreneurial things? Was that later? Was that after high
No,
school?
my parents were like, it wasn't like they overtly encouraged me like, come on, let's go do this. They just never discouraged anything, right? So I remember thinking there was a surf shop called, and I didn't skate. I was like the kid that, you know, was like, I'm gonna skate. And so I went to Toys R Us and got like some giant wide pink board. Yep. And I'm like, you know, and I'm just rocking back and forth in the garage. I'm like, this feels sketchy, but fuck it, I want to skate. You know? And then
I've been there.
And then I realized like, wait, like the cool kids they don't have this like
he just always
giant board from Toys R Us. Like this sucks.
Yeah.
You know? And then my buddy, like the friends would have like, we'd always go hang out at their house after school, and they'd have, you know, keg parties all the time on school days and stuff. But then they had a half pipe in their driveway.
Yeah, that was the dream.
And I was just like, maybe a couple times I stood at the top of it and looked down. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a daunting first. There's always that moment where everyone sits at the edge of the quarter pipe about to drop in and is like, I
Never
don't
gonna
know
happen.
about this. It just looks like a wall.
I think once I was waiting on the street outside my parents' house to get picked up by a friend's mom to go somewhere or something, and I was standing on my skateboard. You know, the driveway or where the driveway meets the street is kind of like this. Yeah. And I was so clueless. I had my hands in my pocket and I was just rocking back and forth, and all of a sudden it flipped out and I just landed on the side of my head and just blacked out, like just probably concussed.
That'll do it. That was
I don't know if I ever got back on. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was, you're like, well, this isn't it.
I went mountain biking, and I was like, and I realized like, man, everyone else is just no fear going down these hills, and I'm like, you know, and then I ended up breaking my wrist. I was like, fuck, I'm not doing that again.
I have this picture of you of like trying to find your thing, and you keep getting like deterred from each one, and you're like, well, I guess we'll have a house party.
I was more like, I've never been like physically daring, right? Yeah. Like even my parents said, like I was, you know, I might like turn around and back off the chair when I was a little kid instead of just jump off the chair. Yeah. But I've always been like, you know, like rounding people up and going, let's go do this, let's go do that, and let's, you know, authority and those kind of things. Not police more so, but just more like, just wasn't afraid of like,
it's interesting.
Sneaking around or sneaking out or doing, or, you know, drinking as a kid. All that stuff was just like, that seemed awesome. But my parents, like in high school, there was a surf shop called Sports Loft, I think, and it closed. It was where we'd all go to buy our clothes and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to open one in town. I want to call it like Sierra Surf. My parents humored me. Like they said, okay, where would you go? This place right here is available. All right, how are you going to do it? Like, you know, made me like, where are you going to get the stuff from and who's going to come there? I went through it. It never happened. Yeah. But it got to the point where I told all my friends, fuck, I'm opening this place called Sierra Surf. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But
That's a good, like now that I'm at the age where I couldn't imagine having kids, but I obviously, like all my friends are starting to. So I guess I'm sort of slowly absorbing lessons of how important it is to instill certain things in your kids.
Yeah.
And I think even not like making them believe that that is possible is so crucial. Even
Yeah.
if you know, maybe they knew at the time, Nick will never do this,
Yeah.
but still like getting you to go down the path of how you would do it, I think is so important. You know, it's like
Yeah.
the parents that say like, no, you're going to go to college, are like the ones who,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or no, that's not safe. It's really interesting how much that steers a person later in life. You know what I mean?
You got to make them think anything's possible. I mean, when I was in college, my sophomore year, and I'd gotten kicked out of the dorms. I'm like, you know, I got okay grades, but I'm not like, my parents are probably thinking, this kid looks like he's not getting a whole bunch of rest here.
Yeah.
You know, but I said, I want to start a salad bar in Isla Vista, right? I went to school in UCSB, and I'm like, they're like, you what? I'm like, but I'm going to call it Shrooms, and it's going to be a salad bar by day and a bar by night. Mind you, I'm 19 years old. You know, I live on BP in Isla Vista, and I'm like, they're like, what? I'm like, I found this place. It was called Dollar Burrito.
Yeah.
From what I understand, because the guy doesn't speak good English, he's looking to get out of this place. Here's how much the rent is. They're like, okay. So I called up, have you done any research? I'm like, fine. So I called up Cisco, which is a food delivery
Yeah,
place. And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm in Isla Vista. We're opening a salad bar. I'd like to meet with a food rep, right? So the guy comes out. We're sitting on like kegs on a gravel yard in front of our house that we live in.
Yeah.
Guy pulls up and he's like, yeah, we're going to open this, you know, and it was great. Even that guy, he humored us and went through the process and, here's how we do it and here's the different products, right? He's like, are you guys is it just going to be salad bar? Well, it's going to be a bar at night. He's like, how are you going to sell beer? I'm like, I don't know.
Haven't gotten there yet.
So we called the beer distributor, right? And we're like, hey, I got a question. How old do you have to be to receive beer? Because I work in a bar and none of us are 21, but they want us to be there when the beer arrives. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah.
As long as you have the license, you can receive it. You just can't serve it. All right, we're good. So I go back and I tell my parents, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
We're allowed to receive beer. We're allowed to do all this stuff. I mean, it would have been horrible. I probably get arrested in 5 seconds. Right? It would have been a disaster. 'Cause no one in there would have been 21.
Yeah.
And so
What
I'm
was
like,
their response to that?
They drove down. I went home.
Uh-huh.
In the summer, they drove down with me from the Bay Area to Santa Barbara, about 4.5 hours, to meet with this guy who had the place for lease. We met with that guy. No, first we met with the landlord, this little old lady who said, yeah, I'll extend your lease as long as you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when they met with the guy who owned it, and now it became clear, not only did we have to take over the lease, but he owed like $30,000 or something.
Got it.
So he wanted us to take over a $30,000 debt.
So that was the catch. Or
So
the-
I was
the
like,
bu-
yeah,
the
I was
deal,
like,
deal breaker.
So I remember then we just got in the car and we drove back. And I was probably more like selfish at that point and bummed out, like this didn't work, and probably thinking, well, maybe who cares if it's a little bit. But later I came to realize like how awesome. They drove
That's insane.
fucking 9 hours in one day with me when I was 19 about opening a bar just because
You had a crazy idea.
I don't know. I don't know if they were thinking let's encourage him, let's not discourage him, or if they thought, yeah, fuck, maybe it is a good idea. I don't know which one it was.
What a lesson,
But it was
man.
insane,
What a
you know?
lesson. Because like I have to say, I believe that if I were to put myself in those shoes today, there is no chance I'm driving to Santa Barbara.
No.
And I would be like, listen, little Nick, that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
And it's time to move on. We got some stuff to do this weekend.
Yeah.
We're not driving to Santa Barbara to meet with some weird guy with a expired lease.
Yeah.
But that's insane because by doing little things like that, look what they created,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the crazy thing.
You don't know until you get older that like the reason you think anything's possible and you're not afraid of like trying is because your parents
Yeah.
consciously or unconsciously instilled in you that like,
So true. You
try
wanna-
it, explore it, see what happens.
You wonder where I'm at too is like learning or realizing how true that is and how much of your environment and your parenting and everything growing up and even some key like moments truly shape your perception of what's possible and what you're even capable of. And not only like I think that what every adult person should do is realize that that is the case whether you like it or not and sort of dig into that and say, well, what are the good things that I got from my parents I can be thankful for and what are the bad ones that I need to fix now? You know what I mean? Because also with every good there's little things. I'm not saying terrible things, but there's these things that you don't realize are programmed into the way you see the world.
Yeah.
But it's just insane how much of a difference that makes, man. If you have parents that are just slightly like, no, that's not possible, follow the normal path, the chances of you becoming some exploration entrepreneur are slim to none.
Yeah, what I realized, because people always ask, like, where did you get this like entrepreneurial spirit? And like, was it from your parents?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was thinking about it. My dad worked at one company his whole life.
Yeah.
You know, my mom was a preschool teacher. They lived fairly conservatively. Like I was lucky. We had like, you know, I never needed anything,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't consider myself like spoiled and having all these extra things.
Yeah.
I definitely never needed anything. I've never had a situation where I'm like, I mean, maybe like, it was a culture shock when first time I went to junior high school, because it was the first time labels mattered, right? So I had never experienced that, and that was
true.
traumatic. Like
So true.
we would go to Kmart, and we just buy clothes, right? And I was more like, in 6th grade, the school I was at, most of my friends were Mexican. So I go to this, and I remember when we played them in basketball, I thought, look at these guys with the short shorts and the rolled over socks and the polo shirts. Like, this is like preppy central. And then the next year I'm at that school. And I've got like the bowl cut, I'm wearing windbreakers, I got fat shoelaces. They probably just looked ridiculous to them, right?
Yeah.
And I remember they'd be like, what are you? And it was like, because, you know, a lot of them, not the most, they were pretty narrow in their focus of what they'd experienced and what, you know? And so I remember people like, I go home the first day, I'm like, Mom, I don't dress like these kids. Okay. So she takes me to Kmart. We buy like long, like Bermuda shorts, whatever, and t-shirts. Fucking next day I go to school and these kids, oh, those are cool shirts. What kind are they? I've never in my life up to that point ever thought of what kind is it. But I'm like, but I'm the new kid at school, so I'm like, what do you mean? And so then I go home crying and I'm like, Mom,
Bermuda's
like,
not
these
cool,
aren't,
Mom.
they have to have a label on it. So my mom took me to Nordstrom. She bought me, it was either like Town and Country or Gotcha t-shirts. She took the labels out of the t-shirts because she's like, no one's gonna check your t-shirt, and she sewed it on my shorts. So I went to school the next day and I had like this Gotcha t-shirt and like looks like I have like Town and Country shorts.
Exclusive.
And I was good at that point. And it was just like, so, but I understood that that was nonsense, right? So at the same time I was like, it was weird, like those are the things you worry about having a kid, like these weird pressures that make no sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time I was aware of the fact that it was nonsense.
Wow,
So that
man,
was
that's so interesting.
But I always remember that, and like, there's little things, right? And then so for me it was different. When I got older, I just all of a sudden had like a meltdown of like, fuck, I put them through so much stress, right? Remember when I go into college and tell my mom, good news is you don't have to worry about anything. Because I've already been doing everything I'm gonna do in college and high school.
Yeah.
So it should be good for you. There's nothing new that really can happen.
Like, you mean like dangers or like socially?
Nothing
or?
dangerous,
Yeah.
just more like excessive drinking and like going, you know, all the time. You know, like I'm like, you don't have to worry about that. I convinced my parents to let me have a fraternity party in my garage in high school, and I told them, well, just everyone signs waivers. That's good. We can have a keg. Like little things like that, right?
Yeah, man.
And the cops come up, and my parents were like, "We've got waivers," and it's just like, you know. So
You're
I just
good.
felt like all this guilt of like, man, you guys are awesome,
Yeah.
and I was a handful, and like, you know, then you get that stress of like, I don't know, you know, I don't know if I turned out good enough, given like how lucky I was, right?
Yeah.
And all that, and so.
What age was that you felt that way?
This was like the end of college, like just after college.
Got it.
So I went, you know, you find yourself like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And I think part of it was the stress, like the anxiety of like, what am I gonna do? Because I never knew what I was gonna do. What am I doing? Like, I have to grow up and all this.
When did that stress start hitting you? Like, did that hit you in high school?
No, not at all.
So later in college?
And like college for me was more like, I didn't want to go to college or not want to go to college.
Yeah.
People went to college.
Yep.
So for me, it was like, I'm going to college. I think my mom even suggested you take a year off, because I think she was like, you don't know what you're doing. You're just gonna float through it. And I was like, yeah.
What's your opinion on college? Like, when your kid gets to, let's just say your kid is there right now and says, Dad, I don't really know what I want to do, but everyone's going to college. What would you advise?
I talked this to my wife a lot. I don't know that people will be going to college then, because I think it's like, so I was lucky. My parents paid for college. I had to have jobs to like, you know, for extra stuff or to eat and all that stuff, but I didn't have to worry about tuition.
Yep.
Right. So I didn't have that stress of like, I'm racking up student debt.
Yep.
And I was probably had this almost entitled like, of course they pay for it. Like, what do you mean? Because everyone in the school I went to, most of their parents were going to pay for college.
Yeah.
Right. So then I was like, but I thought for me it was good as far as basic independence and like socializing for me was actually a little weird because my best friends from high school went to college with me, so I didn't actually spread my wings that much. And I made friends, but it wasn't like, here you are, you're all by yourself, like meet a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
But they, I don't know. I always tell them, I don't think he's going to college. Why would he want to go to college for? Like, he's going to want to like start something or do something, and who even knows what it'll be like by then?
Yeah.
Like, they might just look at it like. So I would tell him, unless you really know what you want to go for, go live in a college town, get the social experience.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
Do whatever you want to do.
An apartment is a lot cheaper than a college education.
Like in Isla Vista, half the kids went to UCSB, half the kids went to Santa Barbara. Well, not half and half, and then some percentage didn't do anything. They didn't go to school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but we all had
the
same. We all had the same experience.
Yeah. That's
I mean, what was the worst case? You try to go to a basketball game and someone says, "Let me see your ID card," and you're like, "I don't have one."
Yeah.
So you miss a basketball game, but like, or go pay $5 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. What? So towards the end of college is when you start wondering what the hell you're doing, wondering if you did enough. That's also pretty crazy, I think, at that age, because that's like 20 years old, 21.
Yeah.
To start worrying about if you lived up to how nice your parents were for you. Like, did you pay that back or whatever? And also what the hell you're doing with your life. Is that when you started like aggressively trying things, or what did you do in that?
And so part of what led to that was, so I was in college and I wanted extra money, and I had a bunch of baseball cards from when I was a kid, right? So I called my parents and I'm like, "Do you still have all my baseball cards?" And they're like, "Yeah, good." So I went, there was in Ventura, there was like a baseball card show that I'd seen. So I got a table and I sold some baseball cards.
Yeah.
I was like, well, this is cool, but I don't have an endless supply of baseball cards. So then I started buying, I found a place online where you could buy these like autographed photos of players, right? So I'm like, I'll sell those. There was a 30 for 30 the other day about how that was all bullshit, and it was these guys that just forged everything for like a decade, right?
I gotta watch that.
But I was like, but other people have these. I'm like, I need something different. So I had a buddy, Colin, who was in the art department, and I was like, can you paint, he was an incredible painter. I'm like, can you paint me a picture of Jason Kidd, right? So Jason Kidd had gone to Cal, so it's Northern California. He just got drafted by the Mavericks. He was gonna be Rookie of the Year. Paint me a picture of Jason Kidd, and so he said, okay, and I paid him, and then I went and I got prints made. I think I got like 100 prints made. And I saw that he was appearing at a sports show doing an autograph signing. So I'm like, fuck, all right. So I went and got like, I don't know, like 25 or 50 of them signed, right? And then I saw there was a sports show so I probably borrowed a couple of $1,000 from my parents for this. I went to a sports show. I might not even borrow money at that point. There was a sports show in Arlington, Texas. So he plays for Dallas Mavericks. I'm like, I'm going there. So I got a plane ticket. I got the smallest booth at the show. I'm unpacking. I take my Jason Kidd, prints out that have been signed at another show. Yeah. Put them out, and the show hasn't started yet. This guy walks around in a suit, and he's like, "How many of these you got?" And I don't remember if it was 25 or 50, whatever it was. Like, I said I got 100 or something. He said, "How many do you have autographed?" 25 or 50. He goes, "How much for all of them?" So the show hasn't even started. So I'm like, I throw out some number. Okay, I'll take them. So he ran there was a sports gallery at the Texas Rangers Stadium adjacent to the show, called like the gallery at the ballpark or whatever.
Yeah.
So he bought them all to put them in there. So the show hasn't started yet, and I fucking just sold everything.
Do you have any estimate of what your cost was to get?
I sold them for less than they cost.
Yeah.
So I sold them, and I didn't even care, and I didn't even think about it, right? I was just like, fuck yeah, this works.
Yeah.
I just sold everything.
Yeah.
And then I just got
all that
to,
matters.
I think I waited in autograph lines and did whatever the hell else I wanted to do for the rest of the show. And I came back, told my dad, my mom, my dad, I was like, sold them all. And I remember them saying, how much did you sell them for, and how much did they cost? And I remember, this is, I think, something I've realized is a little different. I remember thinking, for like a split second, shit. But then only for a split second,
Yeah.
The other part of me was like, and I'd fucking do it again.
Yeah.
So I said, okay.
Yeah.
I go, this works. And they're like, what? Okay. So I said, I would like to do. It was Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones were the rookies on the Lakers, right? The Lakers were down. It was before Shaq and Kobe, and like everyone was excited about this. So I'm in Santa Barbara, so I'm close to LA. I'm like, Colin, can you paint a picture of Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel? Because I saw that they were doing a signing somewhere. So he's like, yes. Now there's a certain style for like lithographs that people expect, like a white border, autographed in pencil, like, there's a certain style to those things.
Yeah, yeah.
So he came back with something a little different, right? So it was the two guys, and it had like, it said Lakers or something in the middle, which wasn't like how people that buy those things generally want them.
Yep.
It was more like how you'd make a poster, but he painted it.
Got it.
So I thought, a little alert went off. This doesn't look like what's gonna sell. But again, fuck it, who cares?
Yep.
So then I go to the signing, and the guy's like, hey, the guys aren't Eddie. So I think I sent like I asked about a discount ahead of the show. So they introduced me to this guy who I don't know if he was their agent or their marketing manager. I'll get him signed. Come down, bring him down, and you can pay. I think I had 500 of them. I had made 500 prints because I doubled down because I did
Just
so
going
well
for it,
with
yeah.
my, you know, the business. So that I was like, I remember I borrowed $10,000 from my parents because it was $10 each for them to sign them. So $20 per poster. I needed $10,000. 5,000 to Eddie Jones, 5,000 Nick Van Exel. All right. So we get some. Eddie Jones is there or nearby, so he signs them in pencil, in the white border. And then he says, I got to get him to Nick. And I'm like, just make sure he signs them in pencil in the white border. Got it. Took a while to get him back, and I was like, what is going on? I get him back. He signed him in Sharpie across the whole thing, huge. You know,
Yep.
it's like, again, like this doesn't seem like. I mean, this sucks.
Yeah.
I already paid him. He doesn't give a shit. I think I said, hey, what the fuck? And he's like, what do you want me to do?
Sorry, dude.
So I'm like, oh my God. So I went to a show and I had people who I had contacted ahead, like other dealers that were like, yeah, well, if you get them, these guys are super popular right now, we'll buy some. And they all looked at me like, no, A, this picture's not what people are looking for stylistically.
Yeah.
And B, he signed in Sharpie across the picture.
Yeah.
Dude, this thing gnawed at me. Like I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
Right? Like I felt so, I mean, I remember for so long it was in the back of my head that I just lost $10,000 of my parents' money. Like I was like,
So is that what happened? Like it was a no-go?
it's no go.
So you just come back home?
I kept trying to sell them. I couldn't sell them. I ended up in my parents' garage, and I was just like,
Damn.
but it gnawed at me for so fucking long, and I always thought, oh man. So eventually, with Zappos, my parents didn't put any money into that, and I gave them.
They put their money into the wrong thing. Let me
So
just say.
yeah, when I found
they chose the wrong investment.
well, no, when I started the company,
Yeah.
I put a big chunk of it in their name, and I was like,
That was payback for the
because if this ever
posters.
turns anything, so it paid back way more than
Got it.
than that.
you're
But I
good.
remember it just, I mean, literally, it was the first time in my life where I had this thing that I felt. It wasn't like my parents. I mean, $10,000 is $10,000 to anyone, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like they were going to be homeless or not be able to eat.
Yeah.
It was just the point of the fact that like I had done that, and making $10,000 to pay them back seemed like I might as well owe them $1 billion.
Yeah.
How the fuck am I going to do that?
Absolutely.
You know, especially because I have no plan.
Yeah. Did that like, do you think that sort of, because obviously it affected you heavily, like, do you think that it kicked in and benefited you anywhere later in life? Like that sort of taking that pain then, did you ever use it to your, like did it make you more thorough on the next thing? Did it make you more like, maybe if somebody painted the thing wrong, you stopped it there? As opposed to then going, you know,
I mean,
anything like that?
I wish I was one of those people that learn from mistakes, but I just do make the same I can make the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm trying not to, but like the thing it affected more was later on. So skipping way far ahead, but after Zappos, I wanted to start a new company. I started a company the day I left, right?
Yeah.
And people offered to give me money, and so I took it.
Yeah.
And that ended up where that company. It wasn't that it wasn't going to work. It was that like when I realized what that company was, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But because I had someone else's money, I didn't want to lose their money.
Yeah.
I kept doing it. I lost a lot of my own money
Yeah.
by just keeping this thing alive and
Yeah.
like steering in all these directions. So after that, I was like, I don't want any investors.
Yeah.
Because it just clouds. Like, I end up making decisions based on like this money. I didn't need it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I would rather, so
Yeah, you're a good guy.
I would rather do something smaller than that.
I get it. So then what's next? So then when do you sort of go, did that dead your career of the signed, custom painted?
Yeah.
It was over after that?
So then I went to there was a job fair. I'm like, what am I going to do? It's the same way in college, right? In college, it's like, what's your major going to be? I'm like,
Yeah.
I looked at the apcation. I'm like, looked through all the options, and I'm like, fuck. Well, journalism or film studies seemed like the most fun.
Yeah.
So just journalism, film studies, whichever one was available. So I ended up film studies. So I was getting to the end of school, and I was like, I want to do something in sports. There was a job fair in LA, so I came down to that, and I got a job with the San Bernardino Stampede.
Yep.
So I graduated like in the middle of the year. Like I graduated like December of '95, and so it was perfect. I could start right in time for when their season was going to kick off.
Yep.
So I moved out there. This one, without going into a ton of detail about this one, I moved out there, and then after a month realized, I got the whole pitch on, hey kid, if you stay here and work your way up, eventually you can go to the majors. And I'm like, I'm not a player.
Yeah.
But I believed it.
Yeah. And
Until
what were you doing there? Selling
customer
tickets or
service, group
something?
sales.
Yeah.
So I was just basically sitting in a room with a bunch of folding tables, I mean, there's no online leads at this point. It's just a stack of papers with our boss sitting there, and we all just got a call from a script and just keep calling.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So
what type of money are you making?
I think my salary was like $12,000.
A year.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I was going to get commission on these things. 'Cause actually, when I left, I remember the general manager's team going, he was pissed, right? Because I left after about a month and a half. What happened was another guy who got hired with me, one day he said, I'm leaving. Where are you going? San Bernardino Stampede was like the single A. I'm trying to talk slower because I'm always like, ah.
Yeah.
But he was they were the single A affiliate for the Dodgers.
Got it.
And he left. I said, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to the Dodgers. I'm like, the fuck? You've only been here a month. How do you go to the Dodgers?
Yeah.
It's like, I applied.
It's that easy.
What are you going to do there?
Yeah.
The same fucking thing I'm doing here.
Yeah.
What? My mind was blown, So I'm like,
because they had convinced you.
I was already thinking, I got
You
to
had a
stay here
10-year
for the
pass.
next,
Yeah.
X amount of years. And I was living in a town called Mentone.
I don't even know where that is.
It was like somewhere by San Bernardino. I didn't really know anyone other than the people. It was fun. It was cool for the time we were there.
Yeah, for 2 months.
But so I applied to the Padres.
Uh-huh.
And I got that job. And at the Padres,
Because that was part of the thing too that I read was like, it sort of was like you accepted that you had to work your way through the ranks there, and that was just going to be your life. And then when it opened up, like, oh no, I don't. I can just apply, and you go from someone telling you you can make it if you work in 5 years maybe to
Yeah.
like you made it the next day.
yeah, someone telling you, and what I realized was he was a great guy, the general manager. I think his name was Jason. But that's what he had done. And he had done this in minor league baseball for a long time, and now he'd become the general manager of a team. And so I don't think he was trying to instill fear in us. He just
Yeah.
thought he was very proud of where he'd gotten to.
Yeah.
So he was trying to tell us, if you do the same as me, you can get here. So then he had said, this kid says, no, I'm going to the Dodgers. I'm like, dude, so I applied to the Padres. I get hired by the Padres right away.
Yeah.
So I go to the Padres, and it was like, I started in customer service. I moved into group sales. It was the first year in a long time that they were really good. So the phone just didn't stop ringing. So my job was basically, I went from sitting there with a script, having to dial to just pick up the phone and go, how many tickets do you want? All right,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
But that I realized two things there. One, I was a terrible employee.
Why?
Well, one, because I was just, I was like, wasn't that interested in what I was doing. So I'd do little things like I realized, hey, if I say, anyone want Jack in the Box for breakfast?
Yeah.
Everyone around the office, especially people above me, are going to be like, yeah, are you going?
Yeah.
I'm fucking going. And everyone will give me a little bit more than what theirs is going to cost.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I'm like, dude, I'm leaving with $40 to go get Jack in the Box for 8 people.
Yeah.
It's probably going to cost I'm going to get free food, and I can be gone for an hour, and everyone thinks I'm doing something useful. 'Cause
Yeah.
it is useful to them, right?
Yeah.
So I'd do that. Then they were getting so busy, they moved me and my buddy Brian into the ticket windows, like where you'd walk up on game day and pick up your tickets. They put a couple phones out there. So we were unsupervised. And we were bored. And so we're like, there's a place in Mexico called Caliente. It's like a sports book. And this is like 1996 or something. So I'm like, let's go to Caliente. So he's like, we look up how far. It's not that far. We could probably go on our lunch break. So I'm like, all right. So we get down there. We drove there. So we drove to Caliente. We get in there. We place these. We're going down there to do like $2 parlays.
Yeah.
Probably spent $10 each,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We come back. We get in line to cross the border again. It's like, this is gonna take a while. So we get back maybe 3 hours later. As soon as we get across the border, the whole drive home, we're just thinking about, okay, we're getting fired. It's good. We blew this. Like,
Just how are we gonna deal
then
with
we
it?
get back, walk into the office, our little part where the overflow where they put us in.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knows. Like, what the, so it also got me thinking like 2 things for the future. One, what are your employees doing?
Yeah.
And 2,
Good lesson.
like, you're not that important.
Yeah.
Like you're doing a job, but like it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I sat there and I thought, okay, I don't want to do what I'm doing for a long time. I think was homesick I wanted to move back to the Bay Area.
Yep.
Because now it's out of college. A lot of my friends are moving back there. And then partially I was like, there's only so many jobs here that would be fun. And the departments are very thin. They're like 2 or 3 people.
Yep.
And they're not going anywhere. They've been here a long time. So
Yep.
I got an interview in the PR department. And I'm like, highly recommended by my boss. Basically go to the interview. And what's crazy is Theo Epstein was the only other person in the PR department other than our boss.
Uh-huh.
He went from the PR department to go win a World Series for the Red Sox and the Cubs, right? That's crazy.
How did that's so strange?
Yeah. And
Why was he in the PR department?
I was just where he worked at the Padres. There was a whole bunch of people that have gone on to do big things in sports that were all at the Padres at that time. And I keep in touch with my friend Brian, and he'll tell me about these things, and he's all, remember Theo? I'm like, I remember the name sounded familiar.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he was there. He would go out, because we could all go out all the time. He's like, he'd go out, but he was like, you probably weren't talking to him that much. There was, with the Warriors, the guy, he was the VP of business development. He just left to be the president of the Marlins under Derek Jeter.
Insane.
And I'm like, your name sounds familiar.
That's crazy.
His first job was the same time. His name was Chip Bauer. His first job was there too. So it was crazy. All these people that were in that room. But they, so I went in the interview, and the guy said, "All right, you've come recommended. We'd like to hire from within. I'm sure you're familiar with our press releases. I will leave the room, write a press release. That's about it. All right." But I haven't read any press releases.
I've been in Caliente.
I did not prepare for this interview for 1 second.
Yep.
Like, fuck.
Yep.
So he came back in. I'm like, dude,
But isn't that your strong suit from testing?
yes,
You can write?
but there's a process to it, right? So like,
Yeah.
I could write something about whatever we're really, but I don't know the layout. I don't know how to I didn't know how to format the page and all that.
Got it.
So I got hung up on that. So I didn't get that job. So I quit, and I moved back to Bay Area. And I looked in the newspaper, and I got a job at a company called AutoWeb.com. And I wasn't a big car guy. And the crazy thing is, at that point, you're looking in the paper. Like when I got to college, I got my first email address right at the end of college, right? Like it wasn't like, it was different. So I look in the paper, I get this job. I go in there, I'm interviewing, and the guy's like a year older than me. He's super excited. His name was Payam. He was the founder and CEO. There's like a dozen people that work there, and they're all young and so fired up. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I get hired, again, customer service, and I think eventually I became marketing coordinator. I'm like, wow, like this is crazy. Amazon had just gone public. I'm like, they were all talking about Amazon and how much their stock options can be worth one day if they could be like, I'm like, what is Amazon? Like this is insane.
Yeah.
And basically AutoWeb was, I want a Toyota Land Cruiser, and they fill out this form, we'll send it to 3 dealerships, they'll each pay us $20, and then they'll all contact you.
Yeah.
So I started sitting there, I was thinking, I was like, dude, like, I want to do something like this. This all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Like, anything is possible. These guys are just like me. They're probably a little bit smarter than me, but not like a whole bunch smarter than me.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Like it's within reach of
So
how
like I
smarter
can fucking
they
do
are.
this. I met a guy, Ken Martin, who I still work on stuff with, and he was in the design department. He was a young kid, really good designer.
Yeah.
And we became friends, and I would just go to his house, and I would just think of ideas, and he would just make a JPEG of like what a website would be, right?
Yeah.
And we had just a bunch of random things, right? So we came up with this thing called For Insight, where with the year I'd worked at the Padres, they were the first team to have kiosks where when you went to the games, you would get, like check in, like the loyalty program.
Got it.
Let's start doing that. So we made this website that looked cool, and we got meetings with we went to the Warriors, the LA Kings, the Dodgers, the Portland Trailblazers. We went around all these teams and pitched them on this this program. And they're like, how's it going to work? And we're like, well, we're going to put kiosks all around the stadium and like.
This is the same as you sitting outside the property.
They're like, how much is it
talking
going to
about a beer
cost? And we'd looked up something that looked like we could buy some kind of kiosk. We didn't know how we were going to connect it and all that, right?
Oh, man.
And we were actually pitching them on, I think we went to the Sharks and the Warriors. I remember them pitching them on, we don't even need to get paid. Just give us a suite for the season. Because that's like, that's what we're just doing this because like it sounded awesome and like how much fun would that be? And then but we didn't get any deals. There are a couple, actually I think fortunately for us, I think we would have got a couple of deals, but I don't remember what leagues it were. They both went on strike. They had lockouts.
Got it. Thank God.
So we didn't get anything.
That could have steered your life into a weird place.
I remember the Indiana Pacers, either the Indiana Pacers or the Cavaliers called us a year later because we still had the email address or emailed us and we're like, fuck, thank God we didn't do that because we haven't even thought about that in a year. But we had a bunch of ideas. One of them, and so we would just mock things up and we go.
So you just fell in love at that point, you think, with like this ability to invent on the internet.
Yeah.
Like there's something here.
Like I can come up with ideas. Like I've always come up with ideas. And it's still the problem, right? I can still come up with a million ideas. I might not be the best at executing them, right? I need people around me that can execute them, right?
Yeah.
But I can take it to a certain point, and I could probably get someone excited about an idea. And then he was like, I had something in my head, and he was like, he would put it on an image, and it was like, holy shit, that's way better than what was in my head. That's exciting. So
That's a dream team right there, though. When you find that,
So he ended up leaving. He left to start an agency, and then he had a big agency down here called Blitz.
Got it.
And they sold it like a year ago. So that whole time he did that, and he built it up, and he sold it.
That's
but
amazing.
But I went with them for a little bit. We both quit. But when I quit, the idea I wanted to work on was called For Students. And so it was like Yahoo at the time was where everyone went. There was no Google.
Yep.
Right. So everyone went to Yahoo, and it was like, I don't know what the word for it is. Right? You just click on things. You wouldn't search. You just navigate your way to things.
I don't. What even? I don't understand what the difference of that was. Like
So,
you
like,
used to just go to like AOL and look at everything there.
Yahoo was just the most popular place, and it was like if you were looking for news, or whatever you were looking for, if you wanted to shop, like it was best to go shopping, men's, t-shirt, like you would just find stuff. And we were actually talking about the other day, I don't even remember exactly, because when Zappos started, that's how we would advertise. And I think you just paid to have links in certain places.
Weird. And that was just because companies didn't have their own web pages yet, right?
They did, but that was how you got people to them.
Yep.
So I was like, we copied that. I'm like, make me a graphic for this thing called For Students, and we'll have this site where you have to have a student email address to join, and like you'll get discounts and services and all these different things we can do just for students, right?
Yeah.
So we made this really good image. We posted it at forstudents.com. And this one I was like, okay, we've had a lot. This one I'm ready to go on this one. So I quit. And I still remember Payam called everyone into the break room. He's, well, Nick's leaving. He's got $1 million idea. And I was like, yeah, fuck, that sounds great.
What was like the tone of that? Like was he?
He was excited. He was actually really cool. He was excited.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like
Yeah.
he's got $1 million idea. I couldn't tell the.
And I'd been there about 11 months. I would vest on the 12th month. But
Yeah.
one thing, I can't wait. Like, if it's like, I always say, it hurts more not to try than it will to try, in my mind. Because it'll just drive me crazy and it'll nag at me. And you think about what you think about. You can't force yourself to think about shit. It took me a long time to realize that.
Yeah. Have you always been glad that you followed that instinct? Like, was there ever a time when you tried and you wish you wouldn't have?
Not internally.
Yeah.
Externally, right?
Yeah.
Like after Zappos, I felt this pressure that was not really, it was within, but it was really about what are people going to think of me?
Yeah.
They're going to say I'm fucking lucky and this, that, and the other, and I got to prove something to them.
But you didn't care.
Once I did, and I made decisions kind of based on that, right?
But I'm saying internally,
Internally, I
you
was
were
more
always
like,
thankful that you followed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I never think about, I've never thought about like how big something is. Like I was talking the other day, there's no such thing as $1 billion idea. Yeah. No one has ever bought an idea for $1 billion.
You had one.
No, but no one's ever bought an idea for $1 billion.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever had a first round pre-work where the valuation was $1 billion, right?
Yep.
So maybe I just justified that in my head, but I remember
I
like
that has to be true.
yeah, I think it's like it's got to be. It doesn't.
Hope we're not giving bad facts here on Short Story Long, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
So I always think it doesn't matter. Like and then like I remember after to jump around a little. I remember after Zappos when I was working on this. It was a couple projects later. I met with this guy from a shoe brand. We'd done a lot of business with at Zappos, and he was like, "I'm excited to hear what you're working on, and I know it's got to be a billion dollar idea, right? Because I know you wouldn't work on anything smaller than that." And I remember being like, "What?
Oh, that would kind of suck.
Fuck, like."
Did that okay? Let me ask you this: when that happens, I know we are jumping, but like when that happens, what can you tell me? Do you remember what you were thinking in your head as you were like driving away from that meeting? Like, were you thinking like, God, how stupid is this pressure? That now I feel like I have to perform on that level. Like, did it affect you like that?
A little bit. Like, I don't remember exactly. I just remember it didn't sit well, but I don't remember exactly what I was thinking. I remember thinking like, I remember thinking like, who the fuck are you? Like,
who the fuck are you to think that I'm so smart?
And mind you, at this point, I have just spent too much money trying to keep this thing alive for other people. So I remember thinking like, I probably thought maybe I'm not cut out for this shit. Maybe I'm not a guy for big companies, or maybe what I think I really thought, which took a long time to realize. Yeah. Why am I doing this? I don't remember what the project was. Oh, I do. It was called Rank. But I'm like, am I doing this because I really believe in this?
Yeah.
Or am I doing this because I'm trying to think of something big? And one thing I've learned is that maybe it's just me, but the times I've done something just to try to make something big have not worked out well at all.
It's interesting. Let me give you where I can relate to you is that, because I obviously spent years on TV, and so I gained kind of this following or this fan base or whatever, and then when I first started Young and Reckless, it started working pretty quickly, and I felt, I would say way less than you because you legitimately created $1 billion company, but I just felt because I have all these eyes, like on social media, and people recognize me when I'm out and about, it almost felt like there was a period of my life where I was too scared to do anything. Like I knew content was so important, and I wanted to create videos, and I wanted to do all this stuff, but I was too scared to move and do anything because I felt like everything might make me look stupid, or it might play me out, or be like, oh, drama isn't really, we thought maybe he was the guy who made this cool company, but he's actually an idiot. And like so that's where I can relate to you is because of the eyeballs, I couldn't do anything. And I found myself the same thing. I found myself every piece of content, every Instagram post, everything I did was to try to live up to what I thought people thought I was.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't envy you for that. I mean, like, I remember thinking, I've always been thankful of two things. Well, I've always been thankful that there was no social media when I was in high school and college.
Yeah, we talked
because
about that.
Documenting that just seems insane.
Yep.
I mean, and it just feels like you're just such a shithead when you're young that like to have that stuff, it's just
so
like,
true.
ugh.
Yep.
And then the second thing is like nobody knows who I am. Nobody, so it's like, so the only times where I've really done like PR stuff is for a couple of these projects where I was doing it because it was a big idea, usually with someone else, and it'd be like, let's get a PR agency and let's do this thing, and I'd do these interviews and I just kind of like, like, what am I doing? And because for me, so it's not like aren't times, right, where I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to like have people know who you are,
of course.
or these things, but like, it's a big freedom being able to like. I mean, for me, no one even believes me that like if I had told people I'm the founder of Zappos, no one believes me anyway.
I'm so jealous. So that's so cool.
Yeah, like I went to.
That's the coolest thing ever, though. You have to know that. I know that it's sometimes I don't know how it goes
It is cool.
in your
It
head.
irks people I know more than it irks me.
Yeah.
Right, but like I went to a meeting at so I had a clothing brand Dethrone, right, and Dethrone was started specifically to get started and have Tap Out take over all the operations.
Yep.
And that didn't happen because Tap Out, well, it did happen for about a month, and then Tap Out like got acquired the next month, and so that we had this meeting, right, with this company that acquired them, super arrogant company.
Yeah.
And they basically they wanted to give us the brand back.
Uh-huh.
But we had a contract, and I didn't want the brand back. I wanted the part of the brand I have, but I didn't want to do all this stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So I go in this meeting, see if we can work this out, and they never met the guy. And he's like the VP of something. And I don't know if it was Dan from Tap Out or like Mark was the other guy at the time. They're like, this is Nick. He's the owner of Dethrone, and he was also the founder of Zappos. And this guy's like, let's get one thing straight just before we start talking.
Uh-huh.
That was a good way to start a fucking meeting.
Yeah, here
What
we
is that?
go.
You are one of the founders of Zappos. You are not the founder of Zappos.
Oh,
and I'm like,
that just made me angry.
motherfucker. So I'm like, listen, and at this point, I really don't. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter to me.
All right. Yep.
I was the founder of Zappos, and whatever. He was like, when you guys were doing this with and your banker was under this name, did you know him? I'm like,
Oh God, what a piece of shit.
yeah, he was garbage.
Yeah.
But he, so I get that, right? But I'll even get it, even people I know. There's a guy, Julio, who I work with. He's still funny. Like, he'll still be like, he's still not sure. So he'll be like, when he writes something or introduces something, it's always kind of like one of the founders or co-founder, and I'll be like, listen, dude, I don't fucking care, but like, what do you keep putting that in there for?
That's amazing.
Right? So
that's so amazing.
It's
what an interesting thing. But I just think I've always been jealous of, in my mind, like I really like entrepreneurship. I like creating things and putting them out. That's what I enjoy. But because of the nature of how I came into business being front and center, I realized that one of my greatest advantages is being front and center. So for me to go hide is actually the worst thing I can do. I just have to own it at this point, right? Yeah. But I have always been so jealous of the person that has been able to create something massive and can go wherever you want and nobody says a word and you're just kind of quietly this very accomplished. It's just so cool.
No, it's
you're like a superhero that like
it's
changes
definitely
into, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. like Superman when he goes.
It definitely has more pluses than minuses.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay, so when you left with your $1 million idea, to start the student thing, how did that play out?
So we had this website, and I started reaching out to companies because I was thinking, okay, well, if we're going to offer discounts and benefits, we need to start reaching out to companies.
Yeah, so tell me what the site does, because you kind of explained that it's like a Yahoo for students. You have to have a student email to get in, but what do you get once you get there?
So back in the day, if you saw Yahoo's homepage, it was just a series of like, cars, shopping, email this, right? We're going to offer all those things. So I wanted to make sure, like, if I'm a kid and I go to I don't know if a category or just like discounts.
Yep.
I want to know that if it says shopping, I'm going to go to Young and Reckless, that like if you're part of 4 students, you're going to get a discount.
Got it.
Or Young and Reckless is going to say, oh, I want to get in front of students, so I'm going to pay to have that link right there.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I started reaching out to companies, and I found a company in Boston called Student Advantage, and they had student discount cards.
Yep.
So I reached out to them through whatever, like interested in partnering or business, whatever. And it was crazy. I got a call back from this guy who had gone to my high school. I didn't know him. He was older than me. But when we talked, I don't know if we talked or if I said in the form where I was from, whatever.
Yeah.
But we realized that we had gone to the same high school. So I was like, oh, cool. So he said, and I had this page. It's one page. It doesn't have any, the links don't work. It's just an image.
Yep.
But he flew me out to Boston. He said, come out to Boston. We were working on some things that might be interesting. So I was like, all right. So at this point, I'm in because nothing's ever, like always people, at least for me, I've never had an experience that was just clear.
Oh, yeah.
And like, yeah, this is how it's going to work out. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 steps and I'm good. I was just more like, as much as I'm all in on like, I want to start my own company, I'm also like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm also like, why was I in a rush to get out of college? Like,
That's so true.
like everything. Like, I
Yeah.
don't no idea, right? So he's like, come out here. So I'm like, okay, Boston, shit. Tom and Dave Anderson, they were 2 of my old roommates in Santa Barbara. They live in Boston.
Uh-huh.
So I call them up. He flies me out there. I stay with them. We go out the night before. I'm like, this is awesome. This is like being back in college.
Yep.
And there's a whole bunch of colleges around here. A bunch of young people. So I go to the meeting, talk with him, and he's like, listen, we've wanted to start our own web portal under Student Advantage. We'd like to offer you a job to come run it. He drives me around. Here's the office. It's on the BU campus. This is going to be your office. You're going to be able to hire, I don't remember what it was, 5, 10 people, whatever.
Yeah.
He takes me to their main office, which is just, a bunch of students and young people running around like crazy, and there's all this activity. I'm like, yes, I can take it. You know?
Yeah.
And so I think at AutoWeb I was making something in the 20s probably.
Yep.
And he offers me basically something in the 20s, and he says, we'll talk about some stock options or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I knew what a stock option was, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, all right. So then I fly home. I tell my parents, like, hey, I'm moving to Boston. And I spent like the next day with him, like he shows me around parts of town, we go to dinner and everything. I'm in, like I've taken the job.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
go home, and he's like, I'll overnight you some documents and we'll be all set. We'll figure out when you move out here. I'm like, okay. Go home. I tell my parents, like, I'm moving to Boston. I'm thinking they're gonna miss me, or they're gonna be worried about me, one or the other.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, that's what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds great. Now, I've shifted, right? I'm not even thinking about being an entrepreneur. I'm thinking, I have friends out there, and I'm going to go out, and it's going to be fun, and I'm going to have a good social time, and I'll get to do this thing.
Yeah.
My dad's like, so let me, just to confirm with you,
Oh, no.
you just quit your job, like a month ago, whatever, because you had to start your own company.
Uh-huh.
The first person you went to and you told your idea, they said, good idea, come do it for us for the same deal that you were making at your last company.
Yeah.
You gonna be happy? And I'm like,
Damn.
God damn it.
That's good.
Yeah, so I'm like, no. So I called them or emailed them, I don't know what I did at the time, and I said I'm not taking. They were pissed off and whatever.
Man, thank God. What a
Yeah.
necessary bubble pop.
But it gets even better. So then my dad says, so I'm like, at this point I'm like, okay, but I'm kind of crushed, right? Because 4 students, like, and there's some vanity involved in it, right? Like, I'm gonna start, if I can start this student thing, I'll be like king of the students, and I'm gonna have all, it's gonna be awesome,
You know
right?
what those parties will be like?
And so then he's like, I thought the shoe ideas are good. Because I said, I can't do it. Like, after seeing their resources, and they're gonna do it anyway, I'm not gonna be able to do this on my own from here. That's
Yeah.
my chance to do it. I thought the shoe idea was pretty good anyway.
That's what your dad said.
Yeah. And I'm like, that was a good idea, wasn't it? He's like, yeah. So I had the shoe idea when I was at AutoWeb. I'd always worn Vans, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about it. I always thought, if I went to the shoe store, and they had, generally at that point they had red, blue, and black, maybe white,
Yeah.
right? And like, if I wanted another pair of blue ones, and they weren't there, I thought, they don't have blue ones anymore. They just have, this season, Vans is only making black and white, whatever
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
right? It's not like I was dumb. I just, why would I be thinking about like what kind of, where the shoes come from?
Yeah.
So then, I was like, at this point though, for some reason I wanted these Airwalk desert boots, which were like these suede little, like kind of 3/4 top boots, and they had this like jagged pattern on the bottom. They
Yeah.
should just float on the sand or something, right? And I'm like, I want to get those.
Yeah.
So I went to Track and Trail in Stonestown Mall in South San Francisco, and I was like, they had them, but they didn't have my size. I was like, eh. So I walk around the rest of the mall, and I couldn't find the same shoes.
Yeah.
I was like, well, wait a minute. At AutoWeb, someone's looking for a car. They tell us what kind of car they're looking for, and we send that information to different car dealerships,
Yeah.
and they contact them. What about the shoes? What shoes are you looking for? We'll send it out to shoe stores, and they'll contact us. That's great. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so that was my idea, right? I was like,
And that one, did you like discuss it at the dinner table or something, and then never
Yeah.
pursue it?
I don't remember exactly, but I remember my friend Kevin. I was like, told him about it. I think when he was over at the house, I was telling my parents about it, and I was like, yeah, right, shoes, like hard to get, hard to find, whatever. Could be something. We live in a pretty dense area. You know, I can't find them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but again, I was just banking all these ideas and coming up with ideas, and I get super excited. Onto the, oh, there's a shiny thing over there. I'm gonna chase that.
Yeah.
And so he said that, so I was like, all right. So the next day I went down to the shoe store. The town was called Footwear, etc. Took my camera and went in there, and I'm like, because I need shoes. I can figure out how to put up a website, but I need shoes or something, or I need at least, even for my mock-up, I have something.
Yeah.
So I went in there and I took pictures of. I went in and I said, can I take pictures of your shoes? What the fuck do you want to take pictures of my shoes for?
Sure.
You gonna buy anything?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna post them online. If anyone buys them, I'm gonna come back and buy them. And they're like, we're not a wholesaler. We can't give you a discount or anything. I don't need a discount. I just need to buy the shoe.
Yeah. We know you're not worried about profit.
It's like, knock yourself out, right? So I'm sitting there taking pictures of all these shoes, and I'm like, and I don't remember exactly how I got the website up. I don't remember who helped me or not. I remember I had my buddy Kevin and Billy. Billy came in one day. He went to Santa Barbara with me, and he's like, dude, this was when you're during that period of like working different places and making $20,000, whatever. And he's like, you guys heard of HTML? No. I remember me and Kevin saying there, no, why?
Yeah.
And he's like, it took me like a weekend to learn it, and I just got a job paying like $30 an hour doing HTML.
Yeah.
And we're like, bullshit.
That's the coding?
Yeah,
Okay.
the basic web coding, right?
Got
So
it.
I remember, so I was like, so me and Kevin both looked it up. We both learned basic stuff. Kevin actually is funny, even to this day. This was in probably 1997. All he does is surfs, goes on surf trips, and then crams as much coding work in as he can as a contractor that pays for the next
He
surf
found
trip.
his niche,
And it was
man.
all because Billy came in and said, have you learned HTML?
Yeah.
So I learned it too, right? So I knew how to make a basic website. And so I could put up, at least graphically, so I could put up a basic website. But I did this with the shoes, and then I looked online, and I'm like, all right, well, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm like, okay, well, where would I find shoes, right? So I find this, or I've got this idea. I want to make this shoe store.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call it Shoe Site. The reason I was going to call it Shoe Site, there's a site called Sports Site
Yep.
that I had,
Fair enough.
it was a sporting goods site. Fuck it,
There
I'll
it
call
is.
it Shoe Site.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
And
so
back then, that URL was instantly available.
Yeah, instantly available.
Ah,
So I got
nice.
that, and then I found out, without the timeline being over, I found out there was a trade show in Vegas every February and August, the WSA show.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'm going out there. So I flew out, convinced a buddy to go with me. Let's go to Vegas, and I'll go to this show for a day. And I have this green printout, which says shoesite.com. It's got some pictures of some shoes on it. And I walked around the show. Obviously, when you go to these trade shows, you can't get it. Like I thought, like I would just wander in, and I didn't even know, I had never been to a trade show. I had no idea what it was gonna be like. But I walk around, it's like I can't even get into the booths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I would like to talk to someone about selling the shoes. Do you have an appointment? No.
Yep.
Too bad. It's like, okay, so I have to walk down the aisles where it's just not booths. It's just little guys with a
Yep.
stand. And
Yep.
But thank God, a lot of them, because they're bored. I've been at trade shows now, knowing how boring it can get. So they would sit there and humor me, shooting the shit, and they'd be like, not yet. But someone's gonna do it one day. It's a good idea. Keep working on it. You know? So all right. So I came out of there. I turned around this corner and I saw this company, Shoe.net. First, I was temporarily crushed, and I went up to them and I was like, went up to the booth. There was no one there, and I'm looking at this computer screen. There's a password required, and I'm like, fuck, man. I was really excited about this idea. Someone's already doing it, and they already have a booth at the shoe show.
Yeah.
This guy comes walking back over. I think his name was Todd, and I was like, hey, what is this? He's, oh, it's a B2B. What the fuck is B2B? He's like, business to business. Like, okay. So it's shoe site. Instead of placing your wholesale orders, you can just come to one place. The brands will upload their inventory, and a retailer can place all their orders in one place. I'm like, good.
So you relieved?
Yeah, this is not what I'm working on, right? So then I leave there thinking, well, this is not going to be easy, and I don't know what my next plan of action is, but there seemed to be the consensus that this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
So then I go home and I start doing more research, and I find out that the year before, I found this report on Footwear Market Insights. I think it was like $99 something, so I paid for it. And I'm reading through it, and all of a sudden I get to this point about catalog sales. And that's what it says, last year the footwear sales in the United States were 40 billion. Fuck, I don't have a point of reference, but I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then it says 5% of shoes sold were mail order catalog. And I'm just like floored. Like, no fucking, I've never met anyone who's ordered a pair of shoes in a catalog. This is crazy. Can't even think of a catalog that sells shoes. And so.
So was 5% a lot to you at that time?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because all of a sudden I'm like, that's $2 billion.
Yeah.
Wait, this has already happened.
And you had never even seen anyone do it?
No. And I'm like, and it broke it down a little bit. I think it had like, work boots and this, that, and the other. And I think at the time it was probably like, I'm assuming like Land's End and those kind of places probably sold like moccasins and shit. It's probably, but not that much. But I'm like, okay, so now I'm like, I've been to the show. I've seen that no one's doing it. I've had conversations with people that say one day this is going to happen. Keep going. I've also seen into the booths and realized. I remember looking in the Vans booth and being like, dude, like every shoe I've worn my whole life is in there. Look at how many fucking shoes they have. This is crazy.
Like if only that was on a web page.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, I left there thinking, I need to find a way to put the shoe show online.
Yeah.
Right. And so then, and I'm still latched on to things like, there's a lot of people with hard to fit sizes, hard to find sizes, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I left with that, and I get back and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to be quick or easy, so I need to get a job. And what I had coded with when I learned the HTML was I went to a Stanford Arizona basketball game. It was the year Arizona won the national championship, and there was this player Mike Bibby. I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome, and he's going to go in the draft this year. So I go home and I'm like, MikeBibby.com available. So I make this website. I put up this basic website, and I don't remember if I did it right away or if I waited till he'd been drafted.
Yeah.
But whatever, I put up this website, MikeBibby.com with pictures of him and shit, and I called it. What am I going to call this? I call it Web Athletes.
Yeah.
And then his uncle or cousin reaches out to me and says, dude, we need our domain name. I'm like, wait, I didn't do this. I'm not making any money. I did this because I'm like, I'm a fan of Mike Bibby.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right. I'm like, how about this? I'll just make the site for free for you guys. What do you want me to put on there? He's like, at this point, not many athletes have websites. He's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
It's
sweet.
amazing.
Right?
It's amazing how that used to work.
Yeah. So then I'm like, I look in Sports Illustrated one day. And I always read Sports Illustrated my whole life, right? And they always have these little sidebars, like facing the crowd, but these little things. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's talking about a few athletes have started making websites. And all of a sudden, I'm looking through it, and it says MikeBibby.com, made by a company called Web Athletes. I'm like, I fucking made it into Sports Illustrated
on like a weird side project.
Like I'm done.
Yeah.
So I, for a second, I tried. Like I'm gonna add a bunch more, and then I realized it was like. He wanted a lot of work. He wanted a lot of updates in this. So eventually, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, you're not gonna pay me.
So you just gave it to him.
But I went to the company SiliconGraphics, and I was like, and tell me if I'm going into too much detail. But
I love it.
I went to a company.
This is the long part of the short story long.
I go to SiliconGraphics, which was a huge computer company at the time, right? And I had what am I gonna do with my life? After HTML, I had gone to this place in Emeryville, and I'd taken one Unix class, which was like a programming language, right?
Got it.
For like a week. So I go to SiliconGraphics. A friend's sister was a recruiter there, and they needed someone for like a web design for their sales intranet or something. So I'm like, I can do basic web design shit.
Yeah.
So I go in the interview. A woman's name was Dixie, and she's like, all right, we have this job, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, this is probably one of 10 interviews. I'm not going to get the job. Most I've ever made is like $20,000. And then she's like, okay, well, can you start? Like, how soon can you start? I'm like, start whenever.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, what do you think about, I remember she said like, it was like 25 or 30 bucks an hour. It's probably hard to believe now, but I was speechless for a second. I was like, in my head, I think I was part thinking, I don't want to start working tomorrow, and part thinking, that's a lot of fucking money.
I'm rich.
Just all this,
I'm rich
right?
now.
Can I do this job?
Yeah.
But I paused for, I couldn't have been that long. I've never been quiet for more than 2 or 3 seconds. And she was like, fine, 45 an hour.
Damn.
But you start tomorrow. And I was like, done. So she's like,
That was a valuable pause.
so she shows, here's your office. It's like a couple doors down from her. I got a fucking office. And I'm like, oh my God. Then she says, let me get your paperwork. Sit here, play around their system, familiarize yourself.
Yeah.
So I told her I was familiar with Unix. Unix was like, I don't remember, but that was like this prompts you had to log in. So it was like you had to type shit to do stuff.
Got it.
I'm like, okay. So the whole time she's gone, I'm just sitting there going, well, fuck, you know, I can't even log, I can't do anything except hit the thing, and when the prompt comes up, I don't know what to do, so I'm not getting this job. So she comes back and she's like, how, you know, are you good? Because in her wildest dreams, she's not thinking that's what happened in that room for the, like the last 5
Like,
minutes.
man,
Right?
they're working already, and you're like, delete.
So I'm like,
delete.
hey, you know, I'm a little rusty. Like, it's been a while since I've worked on one of these machines. And she's like, don't worry about it. If you ever get stuck on a project or anything anyone gives you, pick up that phone, call 3Help, and they'll walk you through it. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I fucking went to work every day, got my assignment, called 3Help, and someone else in the building, this company went out of business, man. It was a huge company at the time.
Yeah.
Their offices became Google's offices. Like, it was that big.
Yeah.
So someone came in and was, well, someone in the building would tell me what to do. And I knew how to do, like, once I got in there, I knew how to, when I got to the point of being able to do the HTML, I knew how to do it. I just didn't know how to get there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I would get projects, right? So the downstairs were the developers. And I get a project, and I'd be like, I go down there, and now after a while, I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit. I'd be like, all right, how long should I tell her? A couple days? And they'd be like, tell her a week. Like, why tell her a week? They're like, dude. And again, it's these developers in this room. No one really goes to bug them, and he's like, we've all got shit we're working on. Tell her a week. If we finish it early, we look good. If, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like,
This is like back at the baseball stadium.
Yeah,
Go
so I'm
down
like,
to Caliente for
yeah.
a day.
So I'm like, okay. So I go back upstairs, and then I met this guy across the hallway. This guy's name was Jared. He was a pretty senior project manager type guy. We started talking about stuff, and somehow we started talking about ShoeSite. I had this idea I'm working on kind of, and he's like, tell me more. So during the course of working there and getting paid $45 an hour, picking up the phone, calling 3Help to do my work, this guy is like the nicest guy, and he's like, hey, you got a business plan? No. So he starts working with me. He invites me over to his house. He helps me do the business plan and all this stuff. He goes, you gonna raise some money? I'm like, yeah, I guess. So I decide I'm gonna raise $150,000.
How'd you come up with that number? From working with him?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he says he'll put $10,000 in. He introduced me another guy across the hallway. He says he'll put $10,000 in. Yeah. I'm like, go to the chiropractor one day, and he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I'm working on this thing. What is it? Oh, got any investors? Yeah, I'll put in $10,000. Right? I'm like,
That's
shit.
amazing.
So then it's like, then I start, you know, I don't really know anyone else. I don't want to ask my parents for any money because I just lost the money on the paintings. You know.
Can I ask one question? Did your chiropractor have Zappos stock?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Not only that, he ended up working at Zappos later on as the life coach, but he went out there fully believing that he was coming in to become CEO.
How does that happen?
But anyway, so he, because he just thought we were, you know, like, dude, I'm smarter than these guys. You know? So,
Holy cow.
but no, so I pieced it together, $150,000 with his help. And so basically I'd go in my office, I had my desk, my work, then it was like an L-shaped thing, all my ShoeSite.com stuff.
Yep.
And like, I had friends that would put in anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000, like, but I pieced it together. So I had friends of friends, you know, like, oh, my friend's coworker, like friend Tripp introduced me to some guy, Brian. It was like,
Did you get the 150?
got the 150.
Wow.
So I got the 150, and I quit. And I remember Dixie being like, you know, you think you're pretty slick, but you know, I basically funded this company starting.
Yeah, there's no 3Help.
I was like,
there,
what are you
right?
talking about, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that stuck with me was like, I think subconsciously was like, what are they, you know, another thing of like, I'm afraid to have employees because what the fuck are they doing? I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? I know I wasn't a good employee. I know these
see
guys
why
aren't good
that fear
employees.
sticks with
I
you.
know it's pretty, like, there's two of us doing the same job, both getting paid way more than we should.
Yeah.
You know? But no, so I had it. So I had the money. My brother's wife's dad was an attorney at Wilson Sonsini. So during this process, when I tell him I'm getting close to this thing, he's like, I'll help you with the documents and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, basically just, I'm sure he gave me a super discounted rate and basically like pay me if you close the round.
Yeah.
And so, I was off and running. So I had that money. I hired a couple friends, rented there was like this converted apartment in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Moved in there. It was a dump, but like moved in there, and
How many people?
we probably had to start. There was like two guys that worked there.
Yeah.
Billy, my friend Billy was like, "What do you want? Just do it. Like do whatever." And he actually left after like a month. So he had invested too. few $1,000, but then he left. I mean, this is how promising this company seemed. He left to go drive around the country in a van with our buddy Cliff.
Yeah, got it.
And he's like, but I'm still going to work because we made him shoesite.com magnets that he would put on the
Put
side
on
of
the
his
van.
car.
Great.
You know?
Great.
It might even have been Zappos by that point, but he had this.
And when did you transition to Zappos?
So I had this money, and we basically, I don't remember exactly, but we had the website up. We had more stores that we, like I had a shoe store in Atlanta that I flew out to and took pictures of their shoes. We had Footwork, et cetera. I don't remember which other ones, but we're basically selling these shoes. And I think at some point we negotiated the point where we're making maybe like a 10% commission or something. Yeah. And we're selling shoes. We're not selling a ton of shoes, but we're selling shoes. I don't know, we're not fulfilling that many of them because again, it's like someone orders a 11 and a half from the store. We got to go to the store and see if they even have it.
Yeah.
Right? But then I'm like, I need a shoe guy, right? Like I've been to that shoe show. I need a shoe guy. Now, Jared and this other guy, Alex, and Art, the lawyer, they started introducing me to VCs. Right? So at this point, anything's possible. I mean, this is early 1999. Like people are like, any category is ripe for being moved online.
Yeah.
So I'd go around to these meetings, and most of them it was kind of like, you know, not to like, it was, you know, do you have any business experience? Do you have any shoe experience? Like, I get it. And I just cling to this market size and the other thing, right?
Yeah.
And most of them were kind of, like I've always been more attracted to people that do something. Like, you know, like I would rather take advice from someone who's doing something
Yeah.
than someone who's investing in something.
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
you know, because like, I don't know. And,
Yeah,
and I know
I get
investing
that.
can be awesome. And there's guys that are really good at it. It's super helpful in the whole ecosystem.
Yep.
To me, I'm not going to find any satisfaction, I don't think, out of investing in something versus trying to make something. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember guys would be like, you know, do you have these shoes? And they put their fucking foot up on the desk, and it's like, dude, like, does anyone else in the world like those shoes?
Yeah.
But I
Only
would,
VCs.
Yeah, so I didn't get through the first meeting with anyone except the company Sequoia, which is one of the biggest VC firms. And I got introduced to a couple of guys. I think it was Chris Rust and Tim Connors. And they were like, you know, and I think Jared made that introduction. They were like, there's a watch company. I think the watch company was called like Ashford.com or something. And it had recently either raised a bunch of money or been bought. This might be possible. But everyone still had the thing about people are going to want to try it on, this, that, and the other, right?
That was that the biggest critique?
By far. And I would say to
Like
people,
nobody's going to order shoes.
5% of shoes sold last year were sold through mail order catalogs. I got you. But no one's going to buy a pair of shoes without trying it on. And I'd be like,
So they just ignored that
yeah,
fact.
you know? And
Yep.
so I just banged my head against the wall. And so then, but eventually with Sequoia, over a long period of time, right? They were the only ones that didn't say no. They would say more like, check back with us in a quarter, check back with us in a quarter. I'd come back, introduce me to another partner. Check back in a little bit, I mean, back. So I had nothing. I'd been rejected by everyone. And I remember Art was like, listen. And he'd always tell me, and I always had this in my head, like, dude, who knows if this is a big idea? This may be your big idea, this may not be. The most important thing is just keep moving forward. So I'd be like, okay. So he's like, I don't have anyone else to introduce you to. Like, he goes, now there's this company, I don't know them, but I've seen a few deals come across the desk. And they're called Venture Frogs. And he's like, so they're similar to you, they're young guys, they just sold their company, they decided to start a fund, they don't have any track record, so they're having trouble getting in on the best deals.
Yep.
From what I've seen, they're willing to invest in anything.
Yeah.
So go meet with those guys,
Like, those are my guys.
and if they don't invest, then I think, you know, come on.
Yep.
All right, so he gives me their website, so I go on the website, it just has a phone number. So I call it, and I get a call back. I don't know if Tony or Alfred called me, but anyway, I get a meeting. Up to this point, every meeting I've gone to in a suit. And like, I always say like, I always had a hardest time with suits because I knew I was supposed to wear it. I knew it would give the right impression, but also knew I wasn't comfortable, and I knew that it was clear that I wasn't comfortable, and so I was always like conflicted with that. Like, if I look like an imposter and I feel like an imposter, like it just feels like I'm trying to put lipstick on a pig or whatever the thing is, you know? So I'm like, so this meeting, I'm like, you know what, fuck this. I've already done this a bunch of times. I'm sick of it. It's my life. So I went just dressed normal.
Yeah. I like that.
And I took the presentation, but we didn't get into it. And we just sat there. I walk in. This guy's about my age. And he's dressed casually. And it was this empty apartment with 2 chairs. Like if we're just in a loft
right
with
here.
wooden floor, we're just sitting across from each
So
other.
what's your idea?
And
We're
we
the
just started
Venture
talking.
Frogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he seemed like intrigued by the fact that the market opportunity and stuff like that. So I was like, huh, okay. So he said, we'll be in touch. So I remember leaving thinking, all right, cool, but probably not. You know, no one else is getting in touch with me. And then they called me back at some point later. I still remember sitting in that office in this converted house. I mean, it's like, and I remember sitting there and the phone rang. And I don't remember if I had to meet with Alfred after that or talk with him on the phone, whatever it was. But Alfred calls and goes, "Hey, I talked to Tony, and we're gonna want to invest $500,000." And I remember being like,
Whoa.
I'm like a fucking billionaire. Like 500,000. I still literally remember like sitting back in my seat and being like,
There it
holy
is.
fucking shit. Because I think, sorry to swear so much. My son's gonna be like, what are you doing?
Good.
But
Was
I'm
it
like,
Luke, right?
Luke, yeah.
Luke covered earmuffs.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna be like, or I was thinking to myself, it was that amount of money, but it also felt to me like to get to where you need to go, you have to hit this milestone, and now you've hit this milestone. So if you got $150,000, now you got $500,000, you're a lot closer to getting the 3, 5 million, whatever it is you need, right?
Yeah.
But they said during the course of that process, actually no, sorry, before all that, a lot of the companies I talked to said, you need a shoe guy. So I had reached out, I was like, I don't know shoe guys. I know Nordstrom's seems to be the most reputable shoe store. So I called Nordstrom in San Francisco, and I go, yeah, like talk to a buyer. I didn't know if there's one buyer or 100 buyers, but I'm like, I want to talk to a buyer. They're like, what is this about? I'm like, I'm a small men's footwear brand. I want to get sold, and Okay, so they put me through this voicemail. It's this guy, Fred. I leave him a message. I say, I'm a recruiter. I got an e-commerce opportunity in the footwear space. I'd like to see if he would call me back. So he calls me back. We agree to meet. So I go meet him. He's dressed in a suit. Like he's dressed like Nordstrom. He's got like shiny brown shoes on. He's got a suit on, and I'm coming in like, I might have put a polo shirt on for the meeting. I don't know, or shorts and a t-shirt, whatever.
Yeah.
At 4th Street Bar and Grill in the city. And I see this guy stand up, and it's like I'm walking towards him, and it's like, but we start talking, and he's like, mellow guy. We got along well.
Yeah.
And he's like, I worked in shoes. Living in Silicon Valley, like I know something's gonna work in footwear.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'd like to hire you. And like, how much money do you have? He goes, I can't. I just had a baby. I can't leave my job when you have $150,000 and you're almost done.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I got this chicken and the egg problem, and so he's like, let's keep in touch. And then he calls me back, like, and he's like, hey, you need to hire my boss as well. I don't have enough money to hire you. You want me to hire your boss?
Yeah.
I thought you were the man. And he's like,
Yeah, what kind of a deal is that?
yeah, he's like, listen, I'm being totally honest with you. Like, I'm a buyer in San Francisco, but my boss, John, is the merchandise manager. He's got much better relationships with the brands. Like, I'll write orders, I'll go to the meetings, but he's the one that they really trust.
Yeah.
He's made decisions which regionally would have, they'll be more willing to do him a favor.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, all right, so we meet him too. And he's a nice guy. He's a lot more intense, right? He's
Yeah.
a little more intense than Fred. But they're basically like, I'm like, this is weird, because like, probably should just hire John, right? But Fred is the guy that introduced me to John. So
Yeah, no, that's the
you just
predicament,
know that's
right?
not right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that.
Damn it, Fred.
I'm like, okay. And so they both are like, if you raise money, we'd consider it. And so then during the course of talking to Tony, I told him about this. And so Alfred's like, but we want you to hire the footwear guys. All right, fine. So I put it together. I get the money, and I get the footwear guys. Their first day is August 1st. WSA shows August 2nd, or whatever the dates are. It's the next day.
Yeah.
We time their so I'm like, don't cancel your appointments. So we go to the WSA show, and we walk into booths. They've got their appointment, right? It was from Nordstrom. So go in, and everyone's like, and I got to see what it's like when Nordstrom walks in versus someone else walking in. I'm like, oh, this is great. They probably think I'm the assistant in the corner, and they're like, hey, so we're no longer with Nordstrom.
Yeah.
Oh, so the day before, we'd kind of been thinking, even from a little bit with selling, like, where'd you get those shoes? I got it at a shoe site. It's more of a description than a brand, right?
Yeah.
And so I had said, and so Sports Site, these are original ideas.
Yeah.
Sports Site had changed their name to Fog Dog for a similar reason.
That's interesting.
It's like, fuck, maybe we need to change our name. We need something that's 2 syllables.
Yeah.
So Zapatos was Spanish for shoes. Like, let's go, Zappos. All right.
And why, like, that was just your idea?
I just tried, how do I turn
Why
that?
2 syllables?
Because Fog Dog was 2 syllables.
Okay.
They're probably
Perfect.
smart. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
Right? So I'm like, so I remember calling Venture Frogs. I'm like, hey, we're gonna change the name from Shoe Site to Zappos. Is that okay with you? Yeah, we like that idea. We were thinking the same thing, but I think it's gonna read as Zappos. So why don't you put an extra P in there? I'm like, done. Call Fred and John. No, this is a bad idea. Like, what the,
Yeah.
There was another guy from Nordstrom who had left to start a company called My Favorite Shoe. So to them it was like logical, like Shoe Site. That's what I'm like,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna call it Zappos. So I had my buddy Kevin stayed up, changed the website, made us a new flyer, we go to WSA show, we walk around, and most people are like disappointed that they're not having a meeting with Nordstrom because you don't realize from the brand perspective, they have their meeting with Nordstrom. They're going to show them the new line.
Yeah,
These guys are now at Zappos.
Yeah.
It's not like they have a replacement Nordstrom meeting set up.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden Nordstrom's missing. I mean, I'm sure their bosses at some point probably circled
You're
back
right.
and said-
You're right. They got switched. with
But we,
fucking Zappos.
But from the show, we got a few brands that were willing to work with us because of their relationship with them.
Yeah.
And they were in the brown shoe category, right? So that was what we got. And our model was drop ship. We weren't going to take any inventory.
Yeah.
But it was progress. It's like, okay, we have a few brands. And so from that point on, it basically became add a few more brands, add a few more brands, add a few more brands. The biggest resistance from brands was this is going to cannibalize our brick and mortar business and piss off our retailers.
Yeah.
That was all they were worried about. So there'd be rules in place. Eventually, over time, we had to open a store. So we turned our lobby into a store.
And that was why? That was to make the brands feel better? Like, what was that rule?
Yeah.
That
It was that, like, no, the brands are saying, hey, we don't want you guys working with only online retailers.
Yeah, and you're like, no, we have a store.
The brands are probably saying, we're not going to sell to you.
Yeah.
The footwear industry is weird, right? Because there's just the stores had so much leverage because, like, there's so many brands that are fairly similar.
Yeah.
Especially, you get outside of, like, the cool hip brands and stuff. You can't necessarily just replace A with B.
Yeah, and it's funny how, like, before e-com really blew up, even for us, like, with all the politics and stuff that we had to deal with retail, like, you used to be able to have all these stupid rules.
Yeah.
One retailer could say, we don't want you doing this with that retailer, or we want you doing this here, and they held all the cards, so there's nothing you can do. You just have to jump through the hoops, where now, thanks to people like you, with all of this e-com, I mean, I think that, like, for us, when we switched to focusing mostly on e-com, like, it was a little scary because it kind of felt like moving out from home and going out on your own in the world, because you couldn't rely on these retailers and kind of the shelf space battle. But there was a lot of hoops and politics, and just they could just make up rules if they wanted to. And now I think that's kind of dying. And I think it's almost what we're seeing now is like retailers are having to ask you to help them, right? Because they're having trouble getting people into the stores or whatever. But that's interesting that, like, so you literally just opened up your lobby just to say you had a retail store.
Yeah, we opened up the lobby. We were in the AMC 1000 building. So there's like a movie theater entrance right across from the lobby.
Were you up north still in this part? This
San
is before
Francisco, yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah, San Francisco.
Okay.
And we had like racks of shoes between our desks. Like that was, and if someone came in the store, they wanted to buy something, someone would come walking into between the developers and the buyers, whatever, and just grab something off the shelf.
Amazing.
And that actually led us from there. We acquired a shoe store in Chico, or I think the town was called Willows, just south of Chico, because they had some good accounts. So we thought, well, shit, they have a Nike account. Maybe if we can acquire them, maybe they'll let us sell online. They didn't, but we did get some more brands out of there, and we could use it as like an outlet, and we had access to their inventory and some other stuff. And then from there, now we've become the dropship model's gone, right? Because the dropship model at that point, we'd get an Excel sheet from. I realize I'm talking about something you didn't ask, but I just kind of. We get an Excel sheet from.
So tell me about the dropship model.
They say
we'll
thoughts just float around the universe.
Tell me what was wrong with the dropship
That one landed
model.
on me. But I was thinking of the store, right? So we're getting Excel sheets, and so we're just here. We're thinking no news is good news if we send out an order, and then you get customers calling us a month later, being like, "Dude, where's my order?" And it's like, "Oh, we didn't hear anything from the brand. We figured you got it." Hold on, we'll call the brand. And customers don't want to hear all that, right? So we have to have a store anyway. So then we bought the store in Chico, and then near that there was a abandoned like old department store. So we turned that into a warehouse. And then over time, and now we start. Now that we're willing to like take inventory, now we're getting more brands. We have a store willing to take inventory. So it becomes easier, somewhat easier. But yeah, it was crazy because even from that, the UPS guy pulled up one day and was like, "You guys look like you're moving quite a bit of stuff out of here, but you don't look like you know how to run a warehouse." Right? So then it was crazy.
The UPS guy.
Yeah,
I loved it. Like,
and it was the local UPS guy, right?
Yeah.
So first he starts in a pickup, and then he comes with a trailer, and he's like loving this because he's just like contracted out to just pick stuff up.
Killing
and then,
it.
So we moved everything to like UPS's like e-logistics center, and they were like, we can do this, this, and this, and then I think they'd underestimated how SKU intensive like footwear was, right? There's so many sizes, and like variants and all this stuff, and like so it would take them so long to get something up where we could actually sell it. So I remember this guy Keith worked for us, and Tony was like, I'm gonna rent a warehouse in Kentucky because this is not gonna work. So I'm gonna rent a warehouse in Kentucky, and we're gonna make our own system, and then we're gonna move everything in there. This guy Keith, I remember him being like, I'm going to Kentucky. He came back 3 years later. And not only that, he stayed in a Hilton Garden Inn or whatever it was.
For 3 years?
And everyone should go to visit him. He'd be like, did you join the fucking reward program? And he'd never joined it. We're like, dude, you have 3 years of hotel rooms. This is insanity.
Oh my God. Did he come back with like a successful warehouse plan?
Yeah, the warehouse was crushing it. And so the warehouse actually was good because they just looked at it. They just sent the developers out there and these guys, and none of them had any warehouse experience. So they didn't think about like, well, how would a warehouse get set up? They thought about like, for footwear, what is the best way for us to do this?
Yeah.
So it turned out to be, it was another encouraging thing of like, we can run a fulfillment center better than UPS can.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Man, how interesting. And so the guy just lived in a hotel. Did people go visit? People went and visited?
Yeah, people would visit him and they'd all stay in the hotel.
And why didn't he rent a house?
I think he probably thought he was going home tomorrow the whole time, you know?
Okay.
Like, it was just one of those things.
Tomorrow's the day.
Like, what's funny was he came back for a holiday party once, and we gave him a truck. And then he had to drive the truck to Kentucky. You know, it was just like,
God damn it.
dude.
Props to him. And then, so when did the move to Vegas happen?
So Vegas was 2004.
So how long was that after? What year
So
were we in?
We started in 99.
Okay.
The store, so we basically at one point, Venture Frogs gave us more money. We needed to move in this incubator. So Tony had rented this 2 floors at the height of the dot-com boom and was renovating the whole thing. And a crash happened. So he had this staff that he thought they were gonna start their own companies and they were gonna bring companies in. They had HR, accounting, legal, tech support, all this stuff. We didn't have any of those departments.
Got it.
So when they gave us more money, they said, but you guys need to move into our incubator. So we moved over there and no one else ever moved in. So it basically became our office and we absorbed all those people. But they, we found was we'd growing and mostly we need customer service, right? So it started off as like selection and then over time it was like, we don't have enough selection. So if we don't have enough selection, we have a lot of brown comfort shoes, but what are we gonna, so most people are gonna come and they're not gonna find anything they wanna wear. We're not even able to buy anything on the site, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that whoever does come has a great experience and then so that they'll stick with us until more people can come.
How were you getting, sorry to kind of cut you off here, but how were you, in those days, how were you growing and getting new customers? Like how do you?
So at the beginning we advertised to brands, 4 brands, so they would sell. Like, so we would do expensive ads at like the Giants game behind home plate and like the Warriors game on the scorer's table, strictly for the reason of brands didn't believe in us, but we could say, look how much money we're spending here. In this perverse logic, they would be like, these guys are legit, they're spending a lot of money on this stuff. Really, we're like fast forwarding our way to going out of business, but it worked because then they would be like, okay, you guys are serious, let's give you more money. But we were doing, I don't remember exactly when AdWords came along. I know it was great timing for us when it did come along.
Yeah. Was that like post Vegas probably? That wasn't early.
No, that was
days?
probably, I don't know.
It was still early though.
Yeah, it was still early.
Got it.
But we were doing whatever the way was, whether it was link-based or search-based.
Yeah, I was just fascinated by like getting a new thing like that off the ground.
Yeah.
Seems super hard.
The word of mouth we did really well on because, and that's I think we were the first to do like the free return shipping or free inbound and outbound shipping.
Yeah.
365-day return policy.
Yeah.
And then there was one of the things that just catapulted everything. I wish I could say it was my idea, but it wasn't. It was Tony's idea. Was so we would start with free ground shipping, and then we'd change it to free. We'd negotiate with UPS. We'd do free 3-day select shipping. And they would be like, fuck, we can get free 2-day shipping for the same price. And then we realized, hold on, we just keep pushing the envelope. We keep putting on the homepage that this shipping is going to happen even faster.
Yeah.
And with the warehouse now, we can like get stuff out really fast. But the problem is, and we're right by UPS, so we can drop it off as late as 1 a.m. and it'll still count as going out that day.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're setting these expectations. So he was like, hold on, why don't we do this? Why don't we change it back to just free shipping? And we'll imply that it's going ground. Ground shipping is free. You can pay extra to expedite it if you want. But then every order will expedite to next day air. Because I negotiated something, I think it was like, I don't remember what, I feel like it was something like $11.99 flat rate. Whatever you guys want to ship overnight, you can get it to the place as late as 1 a.m. and it'll still deliver the next day.
Yeah.
So I got all these people calling me going, hey, thanks for, this is awesome, dude. Thanks for, I know you probably had something to do with this. Like my order I got an email saying just for me, they're going to do the overnight shipping. I was like, yeah, no problem. Everyone's getting that, right? Like, but it created so much word of mouth. And all of a sudden, it was one of those things where it's like the sales are just growing, super fast because of that. And also the fact people are going, I just ordered this at 10 o'clock and it's on my porch at 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's incredible.
10 p.m., 10 a.m. So that was
What a customer service lesson.
yeah, those were the things which just were like rocket fuel. But at the same time, big expenses, which there was always this fear. We'd have a lot of discussions about it, but ultimately there was this fear of like, somewhat logical fear of like, no, if we take all that away, then everything falls apart because that's what they expect from us.
Yeah.
But Vegas was basically, we were hiring all these people for customer service. And in San Francisco, A, we were running out of office space, and getting more office space was going to be expensive. B, every single person would get a job in customer service, pledge in their interview how much they loved customer service, and then on their second day be like, so how do I get into marketing?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
fuck. Like,
Yep. Yep.
So we were like, okay, where could we move? So the most cost effective would have been to open a call center next to the warehouse in Kentucky. But we thought, like, how many people from the existing department will want to move there, and then in the long run, how many people will be there. So Vegas was one of them. Vegas is a short flight. It's by the shoe show. It's a 24-hour town. Already tons of customer service employees out there. So we would go to California Pizza Kitchen every week for our management meeting. We'd sit there, and one of the meetings it was like, all right, well, Vegas looks like the best bet for this. So should we open a call center in Vegas? Like, sure. And then somehow in that course of the conversation, it was like, just move the whole fucking company to Vegas? We're all in.
Yeah.
Right? This one guy who was in the management, he'd been hired that week, and he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so we walked back to the office, and I don't know if it was that day or the next day, told everyone, hey, we're eventually moving the company to Vegas. So I was like, and by this point, it was getting a little bloated for me, because in the beginning, right, if I wanted to change the website, I could change the website.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, even when we had designers like, I want to test my way. We could like A/B test it.
Yep.
I was going to the brand meetings. I was playing a crucial role there. I was like doing all these things. And then the bigger we got, we hired people that were better than me at those things.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, okay, I get it. Like, this is a good thing, but I'm kind of bored and I'm not contributing as much and my mind's starting to wander and all these things.
Yeah.
So Vegas, I'm like, I'm gone. I'll be the first one. So we went out there with the first handful of people, and it was awesome because we stayed in this hotel right next to Sunset Station out in Henderson. We rented this office. It was like being a startup again. We're hiring all these people.
Yeah.
Eventually, the rest of the company moves out, and it's like, oh, great, now we're a big company again.
Yeah, here they come.
But it was mostly that. It would have been hard to expand and find enough people who wanted to work in customer, because we're taking a long time to train them. And so if we're going to train you for a long time, we don't want you to leave after 3 months, 4 months. We want people that are like genuinely excited to be work in customer service and be there for a long time.
Yeah. Did you ever have is there any big moment in your memory of like some big, could be like very well planned, could be a fluke that like poured more fuel on? I know you mentioned the expedited shipping thing, but was there any more of
That
those?
was the biggest one. The other ones were like, as far as getting brands. So when we got Doc Martens, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because generally you'd get brands, and then if you got a brand, you'd get the brands similar to them, because they'd be like, oh, they're selling to you? We want to get on this. And so when we were in that men's comfort thing, like Doc Martens was kind of like the next bridge out of that into a little bit more fashionable and a little bit more reputable at that point, like desirable. And so when they agreed to do it, that like
opened the
floodgates for, so that was that on the brand side. And then the more stuff we had, right, because all we're doing at this point is hijacking customers.
Yeah.
Like I realized later, I always wanted to start a brand, and I just thought a brand would be so much cooler, right? And also because this isn't new and shiny anymore. So like, it's a brand, but it's not the same, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd be like, we're just hijacking customers. Someone's looking for a fucking pair of Doc Martens, and we're just saying, here, get them here, and we'll give you free shipping and free returns, and which is why we were able to grow, because so many people were searching for these things.
Yeah.
So all we had to do was just keep adding the brands. Every time we'd add a brand, we could start to predict if we add a brand of this size, we're going to increase sales by this much. We don't even really have to do anything because search has come along.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
So as long as we're high up in the search and there's not that much competition at this point, we're going to keep growing.
Yep. And then so you guys were growing really fast at that point, right?
Yeah. So we went like the first year basically nothing. The next year was like 1.6. Then it was like 8. Then 32. Then 70. Then like 184. 370.
Jesus.
I left when it was 370. So I left in 2006.
And you said Vegas was 2004?
Yeah.
Got it. Then you go to Vegas. It's just continuing to explode. Then, I mean, what happened? Then it just gets boring for you, right?
For me, it got boring before Vegas. Vegas rejuvenated me.
Yep.
It gave me like another year of like, yeah. And then we had a meeting. Sequoia put us in touch with a company called Cafe Press. they brought us out for like a best practices meeting, right? And I didn't realize until I sat in that meeting. For me, in that meeting, we were like a pretty arrogant organization. I thought, like, fuck, we're basically like not asking them any questions. We're just telling them how to do stuff. And I remember thinking, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, so we always had way too much merch. We had like way too much inventory. And I'm like, they're customizing shit? Like, what if, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
What if we start customizing? What if we start customizing branded stuff? This would be awesome, right? So that kind of got me thinking about other things. For my progression, so I was founder and CEO. And after a couple of years, so basically when we moved into Tony's office and they spent all their money on their fund and there was no companies moving in, there was 3 of them. So Millie went off to be a lawyer. Alfred got a job as like VP of Tell Me Networks.
Yep.
And Tony was like, I guess I'll work on Zappos because like you guys are in my fucking place anyway.
Yep.
And he liked it, you know, and he'd always wanted to do a consumer brand. And the way we'd raise money, like there was never a point all the way through to Amazon buying the company that the people from the beginning ever thought we might not go out of business the next day.
Yeah.
Always thought like we're scaling, but one fuck up and we're out of business because
That's what's insane.
we're never super profitable. We're always like teetering on the edge. We always have way too much inventory. Our credit lines are always about to, if they cut our credit line, we're screwed or we need more money. Like when we moved into that space, Tony had 10 apartments in that building. By the time we moved to Vegas, he had 1 because he was selling apartments to fund Zappos. And like we had a company that gave us a $250,000 convertible note. And they did it because they had invested in Tony's last company and they'd made some money.
Yeah.
It's called Draper Richards. And nobody takes these notes back. Like, so right at the end of a year, they have a choice of calling the note, which we have to pay it back, or they just convert at whatever valuation.
Yeah.
They took the money back.
Oh, man.
Because they thought there's no way
scary?
this is going to be worth anything, right? And
What
so
year was that?
That was probably 2002-ish, maybe 2001, 2002. So they would put on, later they would do these interviews and they'd on their website, they'd claim to be an early investor in Zappos.
Oh, of course, you got to.
Like, you're not an early investor in Zappos. You fucking loaned us money for a year and took it back.
No, we knew from the beginning.
No, so I was, right, so we would be, so at some point we became co-CEOs. He's like, hey, you know, I'm signing all these things and I gotta do this. We gotta be co-CEOs.
Yeah.
All right. And so then it was probably about 2003. Now at this point we're doing about, I'm guessing at this point we're doing about 70 million. My years are off sometimes, but now we're getting inbound people saying like, and we're having this big debate of like, are we gonna go public or are we gonna raise money?
Yeah.
And you know, going public's really, we're not ready to go public or anything, but it's still a discussion. And so we're having these meetings. So I remember we went downstairs, he had a restaurant underneath the incubator. There was supposed to be a little noodle shop for everyone that worked in the incubator, but it turned into this big restaurant.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, one side, me and him on one side of the booth, B of A on the other side of the booth, right? I'm like, this is just, and these meetings all reminded me of like in the beginning, right? They're all saying no. I'm like, Sequoia told us no at one point, but they're still kind of back in. And they would ask me a question. And at this point, it's all financial.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about the financial, you know, it's like, and so I'm like, they'd ask me a question because I'm founder and CEO.
Yeah.
And he's co-CEO. And I'd look at him and he'd answer the question.
Yeah.
And they'd ask another question. I'd be like, dude, look at him. But they'd ask me the question.
Yeah.
And look at him and he'd answer the question.
Here, this guy.
I remember we left the meeting, we probably had to walk like 20 yards back to the office and I was like, dude, I'm good on being CEO. You can be CEO.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, at this point, it's a financial like position. And like, I don't know anything about this and I'm sure as I'm not gonna take the time to learn it all.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make any sense. I'll be chairman and founder. I got a business card that said I was CEO of Zappos. What's the difference? You know?
Yep.
Are you sure? I don't care. So, all right. So go back and I remember I sent an email to everyone, hey guys, I'm gonna be chairman and CEO. Chairman and founder and Tony's gonna be CEO.
Yeah. And that was it.
Everyone comes running to my desk. What happened? You know, it's like, well, nothing really happened, right?
You're like, I just don't like talking about money.
Yeah, but I'm like, yeah, at some point I'm just getting restless. And I'm just like, so at one point I'm like, I'm not happy. And there's departments I want to jump into, but we all agree I shouldn't. Like, it's not the best thing for me to, at this scale, to try to change the website. So they're like, why don't you go be the PR person, like public person, right? All right, fuck it. I don't really like flying. I don't think she was my wife. Well, it might be my wife. It was my girl. I was dating my wife. She hates flying, right? So I'm like, and I don't want to be gone all the time now. So I'm like, but all right, I'll do it. Well, you can be the face of Zappos, go out and do that shit. All right, fine. So I go to the first conference and I'm like, tell the Zappos story. I'm like, I can do that all day long.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
But because I'm not that thorough, they sign me up for a bunch of shit. And I'm like, so I go to New York, and I'm like, I'm going to go out there with the VP of marketing. Her name was Lisa. And I'm like, what are we talking about? She's like, you're talking about search. And I'm like, I don't know anything about search. And she's like, just don't worry about it. So the night before, she's giving me this little thing, and it's basically like, we can track all the paid search. The organic search, we can't really track. I mean, we could, in theory, like, deduct some things, but we don't. It's just harder. We just know a lot about the paid search. She's like, I'm not going to come up anyway. All right. So I'm on this panel. It's all search marketing people from companies. And so I'm just sitting there and looking at the audience, and I'm like, they start asking questions. I could still picture her perfectly. She's in the back of the room. And they're like asking questions, and then they ask, so how do you guys track, like, how do you guys account for like the unpaid search?
Yeah, like the exact question.
And I'm like, I look at her and she goes like this. And I'm like, well, we don't, we can't really, I just mumbled some nonsense.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, what happened was this gasp of like, what the fuck are you talking about? A couple of guys were like, some people genuinely out loud said, what are you talking about? You can do you can extrapolate, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I made this noise in my microphone that was like, and I still remember it. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't talk the rest of the thing. And I was just like, and in my head I'm thinking, why am I doing at a topic-specific conference? Like, I should be telling the Zappos story, not doing this stuff.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I doing? And what is the upside in this? Like, no, I don't want to be the guy that goes out. So I was like, I'm not doing any more fucking talking.
Yep.
Because people always be like, are you jealous that like, Tony is known as like the Zappos guy? I'm like, let me tell you about what happened when I tried to be the fucking Zappos guy.
Not a care in the world.
No, so that was like, and for a while they're like, why don't you, Tony's more financial, we got Fred over here, why don't you like oversee, we're a service company, why don't you oversee the whole service? I'm like, I'll try. And I'm just meeting with like the director of customer service and these things, and I'm just kind of like, so finally, but I was like, how can I leave, right? I'm the founder. We haven't had any kind of like exit. We've had some liquid, like Sequoia eventually puts in $45 million. We use it for like employee liquidity and stuff like that. So there's a little secondary market that's emerged. So we're all selling shares and stuff. But I'm like, definitely haven't made it.
Yeah.
Like if I leave, it just seems like a bad thing. It seems like I'm bailing on my thing, and it's just like.
Was the plan then to go public, or did you know yet when you left?
No. So when I left, so Sequoia was always like, even at that point, they were like, you guys are like. You had this growth, but you're still growing, but like Amazon's outperforming you in all these things, and they're big. So Amazon contacted us, I guess it was 2005. And so we had a meeting in a hotel next to the office. It was Jeff Bezos and a couple of guys. They come out and they're like, we're sitting in this room. Now, at this point in the meeting, I'm like, I hope they buy this company. This would be awesome. Yeah. But I'm still trying to reconcile in my head, that's great for me. It's not gonna be great for a lot of these people.
Yeah.
But at this point, I mean, I'm overriding. I mean, I'm just thinking, it's great for me. It's great for me.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this works out. Tony's curious, just like,
Yeah.
And then we'd forgotten to tell Mike Moritz, who was the head of the board, the powerful, VC from Sequoia. So I think we told him, and he's like, no. If Amazon wants to come out, don't meet with them. Do not meet with them. You guys, do you want to sell the company? That's one of those trick questions because you're not allowed to say yes.
Yeah.
Right? They're testing your, like...
Of course.
No, fuck no, we don't want to sell the company.
Yeah, I'm in it for life.
Right?
I'll die with this company.
Yeah, and the thing was, Fred and Tony at this point are always talking about, I want this to be the last place I ever work. And I'm like, this is literally the worst idea I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, you're like, I'm already...
So they're like, so he comes out, he's like, well, we've already got a meeting like tomorrow or whatever it is. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So he comes out and it's like, those meetings where it's like, hi Jeff, hi Mike.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are just like, and then he starts talking and he's like, listen, I admire what you guys have done. I want to buy this company. And I remember his laugh was like crazy, like this laugh.
Yeah.
Like always, ah, and he's like, I want to buy this company. I want to offer you guys something that's going to make my shareholders think I'm crazy. And it's like, this is awkward. Because like none of us were allowed to say like, ooh, interesting.
Yeah, like no.
Mike's almost like the father figure here. And he's like, what did you guys do? Let this, whatever the saying is where you let the fox into the hen house or whatever.
Yep.
So we somehow get through this conversation without saying, okay, let's hear it. It just turns into, well, we're not really looking to sell right now, but let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
So I remember afterwards being like...
So he never said a number?
No. So I remember going to Tony and being like, what'd you think? He's like, I actually liked him a lot more than I was expecting to. I go, yeah, me too. I'd like to know what the fucking number is.
Yeah.
I go, what did Mike say? Mike said, don't do that ever again. And if you don't want to sell to that guy, you don't, you just don't bring him around because he's just going to try to kill you if he can't buy you.
Yeah.
So, all right. And they did. Eventually, they launched their own thing, and it didn't work as well. But we
That was before they bought it, so they tried to compete and failed.
after
and
that
then
meeting, I can't remember what it was called, but they launched their own like footwear focused thing.
Yeah.
And so then, eventually, I ended up leaving because I said, listen, I want to do that customization thing. We have a lot of our problems are we have too much inventory. Let me get a small team. Let me get some equipment, and let me just offer customized stuff in the warehouse in Kentucky.
Yep.
For me, it'll feel like a new company, new project. No one else is working on it. They're like, all right, you can do that, but you can't take any resources. I'm like, well, what exactly does that mean? Like, so then I said, well, how about this? Let me start a new company under Zappos that does this.
Yeah.
Just give me a project to work on. Like, I'm so bored.
Yeah.
And I remember they were like, Alfred's like, okay, you know what? Let's do this. We'll do a joint venture. You start a new company. You can use warehouse space, but you have to hire your own team. You have access to our inventory. We'll figure out like whatever the that arrangement is.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and we'll put $100,000 into the company, just fund it, and we'll own 50%. I'm like, well, that sucks, but what's the difference? Yeah, that's better than I'm working here anyway. Like 50% is part mine anyway. Like what the hell?
Yep.
But there's one condition. What? We can never be diluted. And I remember thinking, well, you can never be diluted. What am I doing here? Am I just creating a bunch of busy work for myself? Like,
Yeah.
I can't use any of the people. I got to recruit people into this thing. I can't give them really any equity. I can't really raise any money.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I'm just going to leave and do it myself.
What'd they say?
All right. And so I was like, I had typed up this email a million times about like, I'm going to leave. This time I actually hit send.
And was there like crazy anxiety of like send? Oh my god, I sent it. Like kind of like when you send that weird text. That,
It was more like
I
I thought everyone's gonna think I'm bailing on them, and like what are they gonna think? What does this mean? And they did. There was no, like, because what I've realized is like, I think I have a very simple view of things. Like, and it's not it's not humor. There's not a whole bunch of overanalysis going on. There is at times, right? Like people are always like, oh, you're so calm, and I'm like, dude, you know how many times I call my parents and been like, in early Zappos days, and been like, I fucking suck. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, fuck. Like, I don't know. But what I realized was all you're doing is pushing the burden to them. So you feel bad about that later, right? Or my wife, right? I'll be like, I'm fucking. What made me think I could do this? I'm fucking stupid. And blah blah blah. But for me, I have a short attention span. So like, get that out and it's done.
Yeah.
Give me 10 seconds to vent. Okay, now I can focus on whatever else it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in that instance, I was more like, man, I feel like I'm bailing on everyone. And so the responses I usually got were like, what happened? I mean, for the longest time, there was rumors and all this shit about like, me and Tony got in a fight, this must have happened, or this must have happened, that must have happened. It was like, why is it so hard to believe I was bored? You guys are probably all bored of your jobs. You just, you don't want to, And it kind of be later on, people would be like, ask me this question, that was like, if I was in a bad mood, I might say, they'd be like, talk a little. Do you want to talk about what you did fucking 10 years ago, or do you want to talk about what you did?
Yeah.
But I like talking. I do like talking about it. It's just sometimes, So it was kind of that thing.
Yeah, I get that.
But I was like, I'm just bored, I'm staying here because I think everyone needs me to stay here. But I'm starting to become kind of like down in the dumps and like angry.
Yeah.
Because I'm stuck. I'm starting to obsess now about like, when will this all end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because was the culture there when you were there, like how it is? I don't know. I mean, I went there not that long, probably 5 years ago, and it's a very like tight knit.
We were always so. I would say the culture was always flat, right? Because, and or people give me some credit for that because like I'd never had a job other than an entry level job.
Yeah.
I've still never gotten promoted. I think about it.
That's
but
amazing.
I'm like,
That's
I'm like,
amazing.
So I'm like, I'm an entry-level employee that's given myself titles.
Yep.
So from the beginning, and all the people we hired, most of them in the beginning it was their first job. So like, there was no like, I'm better than you, I've got more experience. In fact, over the years when we tried to hire experienced people, it really generally didn't work a lot of the time. And even Tony, right? Tony had one job, and then he started a company and sold it. So like, he related to that as well.
Yeah.
So everyone kind of related to that. We always had happy hours. We always enjoyed drinking and all that, and partying and doing all that fun stuff together. It was more, I think what happened was, so Tony realized that that like oh shit, they're upgrading my stuff.
Yeah.
Got us a lot of PR and it got it going for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And I think he saw the power of like this was customer service and like all the PR we got out of that, and everyone wanted to write about this company has the world's greatest customer service and blah blah blah, and that was like free advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So my theory is, so when I left, it was still the same. You know, as with any company, as it grows, it becomes a little more issues and things, but it was still a fun place. Everyone was tight, and there was still a lot of socializing and stuff. But it looked like any other office,
Yep.
right? You might have a fucking bobblehead on your desk, but basically it was a bunch of cubes, and you walk in, and it was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then what I always laugh about is at some point after, I think Tony realized, well, actually, no, we were in a meeting with Mike Moritz at one point, and Tony was talking about we could beat Amazon one day. And he's like, tell me why. And Tony would always cling to this, our culture. What's your culture? We have like free meals for employees, which in the beginning wasn't common, but then now it's the norm, right? He's like, we have this, we have this, we have this. He's like, Amazon has all those things, and they're a million times bigger than you.
Yeah.
So stop telling me your culture is so great, and then giving me examples of things that a bunch of companies do. Yeah. And I remember Tony kind of being like, he's very quiet. It's funny. We always laugh. He sits in a room. We could, if we're both sitting here in a meeting, and I'm thinking like, that's a pretty cool neon sign over there.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, that's a pretty cool neon sign over there. The problem is I'm going to say, that's a pretty cool neon sign over there.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to be like, what the fuck's he thinking about the neon sign?
Yeah.
Tony's just going to sit there thinking about the neon sign, and everyone's going to be like,
damn, look.
dude, he's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have to say anything. You know? So I was like,
That's
man.
so true.
But again, it's like, I'm aware of this,
Yep.
but I can't change who you are. So I could say, I'm just not going to say anything. Maybe people think like I'm way more intelligent, but it's not the way it works.
Yeah, you can't.
But anyways, so we had this meeting, and I remember him thinking about that. And so my theory, what I think happened is that after that, he just started thinking, culture. Okay, yeah. Maybe, I think he started questioning, yeah, maybe am I putting too much on our culture? Is it not that unique? And then I think he thought, I think the customer service PR started to die down. And then it just turned into culture overload. We've got tours. We've decorated the office like a jungle.
Yep.
We're like, and the employees in the beginning, I remember going to visit, and they're like, hold on, shaking their stuff, because there's a tour coming through.
That's amazing.
And then I
it's
think
so
he started
good to hear that side of it.
Yeah, and then he started to see people are willing to pay for this, and we're getting so much PR from this culture.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing though is if you think about it, when that startup culture started, the company's 8 years old and doing $500 million in sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everyone acts like this company from day,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess the culture started earlier. It just morphed into that over time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it sounds like it just like magnified. Like it took kind of what was already good, and then you just kind of, make it pretty for the cameras a little bit. So when and you got out of there keeping all your equity and everything, right?
Yeah. So there was no sale. Like we had Sequoia we had the liquidity event with Sequoia where we could all sell shares. And there was a secondary market. So over time, people would sell shares. I sold shares at different times. But no, when I left, I had, a good chunk of my equity. And when the Amazon sale happened, it just converted into Amazon stock.
Yep. And when did the Amazon, what year was that?
2009.
2009. And that was for, what was the valuation, 1.5 billion?
Well, it was interesting. So it was 800 million when the deal was agreed to, and they offered cash, and the board wanted stock. So they agreed to stock. During the window of it closing, the stock increased 50%. So it went from 800 million to 1.2 billion.
Damn. And when that happens, there's nothing you can, they just have to agree to the same.
Yeah, because it's stock. They've already said this is how many shares we're going to give you. But I feel like it was just this charmed thing.
Yeah.
That, looking back on, was charmed, and at the time it was just like super frustrating. And I mean, like the anxiety of thinking you might go out of business the next day, because there was a lot of like, I asked Tony later, I was like, hey, so like when we were, people were like selling shares and doing this and freaking out that we were going to go out of business the next day and all this stuff, because you'd already had a company.
Yeah.
Did you know this was something different? Or did you, and he was like, well, only thing I knew was that our sales volume was like a lot, right? And there wasn't that many companies out there that were doing that much. There also wasn't that many companies that would be interested in buying us. The challenge we had eventually, the reason it sold, was the choices were go public or somehow get sold, because we were like literally about to burst at the seams.
Yep.
If Wells Fargo changed our credit line at all, it was huge problem.
That's insane.
And they weren't willing to raise it anymore.
Yeah.
And then the other problem we had for going public, we had two problems. One, when Tony started doing all the interviews, he always gave the gross sales. We had a 40% return rate. So like he had set these expectations over these years, and I just did the same thing. When I gave those numbers, those are the gross sales.
Yeah.
But 40% of that shit's coming back.
Yeah.
And so like, if we would have been a public company, we would have had to report net sales. And the board was like, it's going to be a big, because they were kind of like, why do you keep doing that, right? Because it's going to be a letdown. You say, hey, we just hit $1 billion in sales, but really you hit 600 million in net sales.
That's so cool. You want to know why that's so cool to me? Is because here at my company, which is a fraction, small fraction of that amount, we had a meeting the other day, and our e-com manager kept reporting our sales, and I'm like, that's not accurate. You know, something seems a little weird there. And I'm like, well, either way, after digging through it for 10 minutes, we found out that he kept reporting gross sales. And we're like, why are you doing that? You know, because we're comparing like, oh shit, our e-com quadrupled this year, you know, and why did this happen? So just to know that $1 billion company has the same problem is good to know.
Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because what it got back to me was another lesson of like, it is what it is. Like trying to explain something in a way which sounds better or doing all these things, it never, in the long run, it doesn't do
always
any
catches
good.
up, yeah.
So the other thing was the board was like, look, and it was a trip for me because I was on one side of the board meetings the whole time for like 7 years, right?
Yeah.
And then when I resigned, I was on the other side of the board meetings as a shareholder at the board meetings,
Yeah.
but not privy to like their, you know, putting the presentations together and all this stuff. So I just started realizing, man, yeah, these guys aren't assholes. Like the questions they're asking now make sense to me.
Yeah.
But the other thing was they said, listen, you guys are, your sales volume's high. Your net sales aren't as high as the expectations you've set publicly. And you're also, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure we hit $1 billion in sales or made like $10 million profit. Like your profit margins are so small.
Yeah.
Secondly, you guys haven't innovated in forever. That was the one thing that the board always tells us, you guys had a big wasted opportunity. Your site and experience is basically the same now that it was in 2009 that it was in 2001.
Yeah.
You guys missed the chance to do a whole bunch of innovation. We did some stuff. We were the first ones to do multi-view images. We were the first ones, you know, the returns and all that. We did a lot of advances in the warehouse, but they thought like from a technical technology perspective, you could have done more. So anyway, so they said, if you went public, so they had a liquidation preference we had to clear, right? If you go public, you'll probably be valued above that. But you're not going to be a good public company. So your stock's going to go down over time. So by the time our lockup's over and we're able to sell, we're going to be below our liquidation preference. So we wouldn't let you go public anyway.
Yeah.
So eventually they called Alfred, who would come back to be CFO. And Tony was like in Vegas trying to find someone. He didn't want to sell. He was like trying to find someone, investors in Vegas, to buy out the board. So he could keep it private forever. But the board was like, Alfred, call Amazon back and see if they'll still buy the company.
That's how it went down.
That's how it went down.
And they said yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, man, how cool. It's also cool that they tried to compete and lost, you know, because that's one thing, even once again, just to draw the comparisons. Like today we worry about our brands. Like Amazon is sort of this new emerging place to also sell brands like ours on and try to build that relationship. But also we kind of know in the back of our heads, like, man, even if we start doing well, they're just going to copy it, or, you know what I'm saying? You're just letting them in on all your information. So if you make these hot pair of jeans or this hot item, you're essentially just giving them research information, you know, and it's kind of a weird jam up. But it's cool to be able to say that, you know, they tried to go out and go head to head with you and you beat them and then they had to buy you. I mean, that's cool. Can I ask you this? Is maybe an immature question. Just curious. How did it go down, like when you found out that the deal was going through and that they were going to buy it, and that like you had that big of a win after all those years of like stress and like, I mean, like I know if it was me, I'd be putting on some like
it wasn't quite
rap
as,
music.
it wasn't quite as like, it wasn't quite as crazy. It was more like, I still remember sitting in this conference room with this little office I had, and them telling me, but because we'd had the secondary sales and liquidation preference, I had already made like, I remember talking to a good friend of mine, and he's like, holy shit, dude, like, this is life-changing. I'm like, well, you know, because in the last, like, the few years since I'd left, I'd been able to liquidate quite a bit of shares. And I was like, it is, but, like, I'm going to make a little more, or at this point, it's worth more than I already have.
Yeah.
But I've already sold a lot of I'm already doing pretty good. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, I never knew. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, want me to put a fucking,
Sign.
you know,
Yeah.
like,
Here's my
wasn't
current net
gonna.
worth.
Hey, look how much money I've made from selling these shares. You know,
Maybe a chain. Maybe a Zappos chain.
Yeah. But they yeah, the only oh yeah, there was but the so that was the cool part.
It's
right?
just cool.
This is
That's
kind of-
just to me like
yeah.
the, you know, I think very few people. Obviously, there's the ability to even start a company, which is very rare. The ability for that company to even succeed for a little bit, which is very rare. Exit a company, very rare. But like, just that level of an exit is just so cool
Yeah.
to me. You know, it just feels like I feel like a kid that's like pretty good at high school basketball, and like you made it to the NBA and you've seen it. You know, like you
Yeah.
just, it's cool.
There was a guy on our board, Michael Marks, and he had a company, I think Flextronics. And he was like a bulldog. He was a very serious business guy, and we always called him, he was our bulldog. When you're on the other side of the table, it was like, dude, this guy's gonna tear us apart in the board meeting. But I remember after I left the company, I was on that side of the board meeting. It was always like, you know, he's like, I'm like, man, is this ever gonna be, you know, because I would ask him sometimes, hey, I got this opportunity to sell some shares, should I do it? And he's like, I always think you should do it. You should never have all your equity in one thing.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's gonna be the biggest thing in the world, what if it's not? You know, like you should always diversify. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing him at a Warriors game after right after it got announced, and I like ran down. I'm like, dude, thank you, whatever you did to force this through. I fucking, because it's weird, people, but like a lot of us were almost writing off that it would ever have any additional value.
Yeah.
Like we thought what we'd gotten out, but these guys are gonna just
Yeah.
keep this thing private forever, and then the business is gonna just kind of go down, and it's like that's gonna dry up. And he was just like, dude, it's unbelievable. I was like, I can't believe they did that deal.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I can't believe Amazon did that deal.
Yeah.
Like this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is cool.
That's incredible.
Um,
It's so cool.
yeah.
And did you ever, like, from the moment you left there and felt so clear and sort of free, did you ever wish you could go back? Like, did you ever miss corporate office life?
No.
Yeah.
I remember like there was a different pressure because now there was a pressure of like whether it was internal or external. Did I get lucky? Can I do this again? Can I jump straight into this like customization thing?
Yeah.
When I was like, I'm gonna do this, and so those were the only times when it was like it was a new pressure that I
you
thought
still feel
was
that?
sitting on that couch that bad. No. So you know what's a trip? I was thinking about this the other day. So I went through the process, right? And I never made any extravagant purchases and shit like that. I do remember buying a house once before a deal had closed to give me the money, and I was like stressed out, calling Alfred. I go, Alfred, I just bought this house, closed on Friday.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get the money till next week. I'm like, I know, but like, why did you do that?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like it took a while, and it took ups and downs of like, you know. Now the good news was I'm losing my own money when I'm trying things and they're not working. Okay, that sucks, but I can get around that in my head more than like owing someone else, right? And so, but there's still times when you're like, should I just stop doing this because I'm just fucking spending money, repeating mistakes over and over, telling everyone I'm aware of the mistakes I just made, and then making the same mistake, right? And it's like kind of a trip because you start thinking, what am I doing? And like you start looking at every dollar and thinking, like, should I be spending? You know, I don't know. Just I wish I could just relax and just sit around and be like, invest in companies.
Yeah. And you
Play
still can't
golf
do
or
that,
something,
right?
you know. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't. I've only invested in 4 companies ever, and it's mostly sports stuff that I've just like lifelong dream I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But what happened for me was, I had this moment like last year. So I always had things and I was working on them and I was like, okay, but something wasn't quite right. Like it wasn't. Even if I would say like, oh, I'm doing this and I don't care about this, it wasn't quite right. I keep bringing my son up, but I haven't told him. But he was playing Minecraft one day, right? He's like, come play Minecraft. This was probably maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And it's so, you know, I'm like, oh man, I gotta play Minecraft. It's like so fucking boring. And I'm like, all right.
The reality of parenting.
So I'm sitting there and I'm playing Minecraft. I'm like, what's the point of this? And
Yeah.
he's like, what do you mean? Because at nighttime you get to kill zombies and dogs or something. I'm like, let's go back to nighttime. He's like, no, like he turned it off that mode. I'm like, well, what is the point of just fucking running around in the daytime?
Yeah.
He's like, you just play, like build things. What do you mean? What's the point? I'm like, how do you win? He's
Yeah.
like, you don't win. You just build things. And then I'm like, and then it was weird. I for some reason that stuck with me, and I'm like, dude, I don't have to apologize for the fact that like I want to start this and it can't be $1 billion company. Like, I should just be building things, right? Like, if I think we need this where I live, I should try to build that. Or if I want to start this, I should just try to build it. And then I just start tripping out, because then you're like, in Minecraft, you realize like you feel like, oh, it's weird. It's this, I'm just seeing this perspective. You're like, wasn't that what we do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if there was no mirrors and no cameras, I'd have no idea what the fuck I look like.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be worried about decorating myself.
Yeah.
I'd just be thinking like, I need to build some cool shit out here because I can see it.
Yeah.
Right? So then I was like, I don't know, it was this weird thing where I was like, just kept thinking about Minecraft. I'm like, kid just wants to fucking build things, and he wants to build this building in Minecraft just because he thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'm just gonna build things that I think are cool, and hopefully, and then also realize, okay, what are my limitations? Easily distracted, come up with a bunch of ideas. So I gotta start trying to figure out a way to make it so that I can do the part that I'm good at, and then have people that can do the part they're good at.
Yeah.
But like, maybe we don't have to define like how big something is gonna be or what the point of it is.
Yeah.
We're just like, and I'd always had this feeling, I'd always told people, it hurts more not to try than I always felt like, it's like my stomach hurts if I think something's a good idea and I don't try it.
Yeah.
So why would I not try it? Like, how much,
Yeah,
once you get over ego,
Yeah.
and for me, I don't have any eyes on me, I don't have anyone thinking like, I mean, there are probably people being like, what an idiot. But like, what? Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing is the fun is actually in the trying the things. You know, everyone thinks that the fun is in the day you get the call that the company sold for $1.5 billion. And I'm sure that that was a fun day.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how much the fulfillment and what truly drives you as a human being is in trying, and the failure, and then moving to the next one, and this and that. And what if we tried this thing? What if, you know, it's just crazy. As I get older, that's something, and that's why I like having this conversation, because I obviously can't relate to like the crazy level of success, but I learn as I go that all the lessons are still the same. You know what I mean? And it's like, for the longest time, all I ever drove towards was to be rich or these big money moments. And then you just realize as you do it for long enough, it's like, man, that is not what's fun. Like, the fun thing is sitting on the couch on the laptop, you know, those moments. And it's like, how do you, even if, because I've been doing this company for 10 years, and it's like, how do you, if there is no big exit, there is no move on to another company, how do you make it feel like this new project is a startup idea within this bigger atmosphere? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that truly is like, I don't know, when I'm going to bed at night, I feel the best when I'm like on to something that I'm sure is it. Who cares if later you feel like an idiot? I'm
always like, because people always go like, when you come up with a company or start a company, what do you do? I'm like, I think of an idea and then I just obsess over making a logo.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
You don't do that. I'm like, once there's a logo that I could print out and look at or email to someone, then it's like exists.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like real. And like people are always like, it's like I have no ego. I mean, I probably think I have a big ego. It's just with different ways, right? Like when I went to gym, you motivate yourself in different ways. When I'm at the gym, I'm like, I tried to teach a class once at base camp at the gym, and like they're so positive, and I was like, let me tell you what's going through my head when I'm at the gym. Yeah. I'm like, you guys are biking. The person next to you is fucking laughing at you. They think you're a pussy. Like, when you're, hey, everyone's looking at you doing those push-ups. Like, that's what I'm thinking, right? Like when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I'm like, you're not a fucking pussy. That's what I'm like telling myself. Don't fucking, who gives a shit? Like, nothing could happen today, like, that you should be scared of or like you can't do. And like, the only time you'll get stuck is when you're worried about what someone else is thinking. But I don't remember exactly what my point was. But no, it's like a t-shirt, right? So people go, oh, don't you think it's like, what do you think when you go to UPS store and you see all the Zappos boxes? Yeah. I'm like, you know what? That's the fucking return pile. That's what I think. That's so true. That pile is the return pile. It's all going back. It drives me fucking crazy. What a perspective. So you know? Like, but when I see someone wearing a shirt, I never knew how hard brand was going to be, and I still don't think I haven't created a brand that's like at any scale or super successful, right? I just like it. And once I got to the point of being like, who cares? If there's 10 people wearing that hat or that shirt, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, so cool. How do you know, like, how do you know when you have these crazy ideas that pop up out of nowhere, how do you know which ones to pursue, and how do you know when to bail out? So bailing out, I learned was when the original idea is gone, and I'm like the company I left after Zappos was called Stagger. It was like SiliconGraphics. Put all our money into this front end customizer. We went out, we did deals with like, the idea was then you'd have branded products and you could add graphics to it, right? I branded t-shirts from different companies and we did deals with like, I had a guy down here, Guy Osiri, that introduced me to like a bunch of people, took a little bit of the company, and like we had deals with like, Madonna was the first one, right? So we took all of her album art, all the art she ever had, we chopped it up, we made it so people could make this custom Madonna shirt. And we had a great first month. And the merch company was like, that's probably the best like apparel merch or whatever merch first month any company's had.
Yeah.
So I got all excited. I'm like, yes. So we started signing up all these other like Fergie and Black Eyed Peas, and he took me into like Marvel and all these places, and then I bought all this equipment, and then I realized, okay, we launched Black Eyed Peas. They were huge at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think it could get any bigger than Black Eyed Peas then. And we had like Ozzy Osbourne, like, and none of it sold like Madonna did.
Yeah.
But we started looking at the data. We saw a lot of men's Madonna shirts, and we realized, okay, there's a big gay men's population that wants to express their fandom of Madonna. There's not much out there for them, so they're coming to your site and they're like, oh my God, I can make a Madonna shirt. There are no men's Madonna shirts out there.
How interesting.
The people that want a Black Eyed Peas shirt, there's already a million Black Eyed Peas shirts out there.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, okay, but I've just scaled up a little bit, and like we got all these temperamental machines, right? And it's like, I remember thinking, okay, we put all our money into the front end. Our back end sucks. We're basically manually entering everything. If someone made a shirt, we had someone on Photoshop recreating what they made on the front end because we didn't pay for the back end.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is a manufacturing company. Do I want to run a manufacturing company? Not really. All right, so then because of that, we get away from the original idea. And it's the curse of being interested in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm never like, I'm going all in on this one, right? So then we start pre-printing the shirts. And so we did a bunch of deals with like concert poster artists and all these things, and we had like I almost turned it more like a lifestyle brand. And then we met a MMA fighter, whatever, or a manager, and we did a Chris Lieben shirt, and he wore this little green Hulk guy that said Stagger on a fight. All of a sudden, MMA fans are buying this shirt. So then we're sponsoring all these guys, and we're like get it super into MMA. We're sponsoring like Nate Diaz wore this shirt for a big fight, and like we're selling a shitload of them. But if you go on Google and you search for Stagger, the first thing that pops up is custom Madonna shirts. I'm like, fuck, now I got an MMA brand where the first thing you find is custom Madonna shirts, right? So I'm like, how did this happen? And I've spent so much money getting to this point, right? So that was an example of like, I was like, don't let that happen again, where you just can't admit, it's okay to say, I don't want to do this. If it's yours, it's okay to say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep spending my time and money on something if I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I got to take care of the people that are working on it, but I don't have to,
Yeah.
And then, so then the gym, for example, so we have a gym company called Basecamp. And so that one was more, through the course of this, I became friends with a bunch of the fighters at AKA down in San Jose, and they have this, they'd be like, come train. I'm like, I'm not gonna fight. I've never wrestled or anything. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna get like staph infection in 5 seconds. But I'm like, I'll come to your cardio workout though. And they're like, you can't do our cardio workout. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, this is a superhuman cardio workout. So I asked, Bob Cook was their manager. I'm like, what do I gotta do? He's like, it's a minute on this Airdyne and then a minute of doing like some drills and then a minute on the Airdyne. He's like, just go get an Airdyne bike. This is the pace the pro team has to keep. So when you can keep that pace for a minute, rest for a minute, do it again. When you can do that for 15 rounds, then come in. Like, I don't do anything in between. Yeah, do some push-ups or squats or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So go in the garage and I'm like cranking out this workout and I'm like, first time I did it, I told my wife like, come check on me because like, I'm gonna have a heart attack or something out here. But eventually, over a period of time, I can keep their pace for the 15 rounds with some light push-ups or squats in between. And I go down there, and they're all like, oh, okay. It's the actual protein practice. Like, and so I've got like, Daniel Cormier, I got Cain Velasquez, I got Josh Koscheck, Josh Thompson, all these guys like, in there, and they're all like, I'm on the bike, and oh, okay, you got the pace, yeah, no problem. And I'm trying to look cool, so I'm holding my breath, which makes it even harder, So I want to look like this is fucking easy.
Of course.
Get off the bike. What do we do now? Bob's like, takedowns. Fuck. So all these guys would just take me down, lie on top of me, and then slowly let me up. And then as soon as I got up, take me down again. And fuck. So I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. But the bike was gonna be the hard part. So I get back on the bike. Shit. And but I get through it, whatever. And I'm like, and they thought it was hilarious. And I was like, I kind of like that. It was kind of the process of getting myself to be able to ride that bike felt pretty good. Feel like I was getting in good shape.
Yeah.
So I took it over to the dethroned warehouse. And there's another guy there, and he's like, I'll do it with you. So we'd we do like light pummeling and stuff, like barely touching each other.
Yeah.
And then there's another developer who was renting an office. He's like, I'll try that, but I don't want to do the touching stuff. So we're like, well, fuck it. Here, I'll just write a whiteboard, and I'll write down 15 exercises, and we'll just do that. So we're like, all right. So we're going, and then I tell my buddy Millar, hey, come over and try this workout at lunch. And then pretty soon we had like a dozen people coming every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at lunch.
Yeah.
So then I knew this fighter, Jesse, who we had sponsored, he had stopped fighting, but he was like, I knew he was doing some training at a boxing gym. So I was like, hey, come try this workout. So he comes and tries it, and he's like, I really like this. And I'd done CrossFit for a little bit, so before I hurt myself twice, and so I was incorporating some of those, moves in there and on the whiteboard. And he brought these couple of girls. We never had any girls come. And they liked it, and they made us add abs afterwards. And it was like, and they kept coming. So I just kept, I was like, my gut's screaming, open a fucking gym, you idiot.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, I don't know. So then I asked, I met Mark Mastroff at a Warriors game. He was the founder of 24 Hour Fitness. Hey, can you come check out this workout and see if it's a good idea? So he comes and watches it. He's like, I'm like, should I open a gym? He's like, yeah. He wasn't going to tell me no.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, well, he validated it in a weird way.
Yeah.
But then in my mind, I'm like, did he? Or, and then, so eventually I opened a gym, and then it was like, during the course of that process, when we ran out of equipment. So I had to make these exercises different. You couldn't all do the same thing. And when you're tired, and you're hauling ass on the bike, and you get on the mats, and like you're looking at this whiteboard, and you're like, I don't remember if I'm on my 6th round or my 7th round, right? People were getting all confused. So the developer who was in the office was like, why don't I make an app, and we can play it on TV, and I'll break the screen into 4 parts, and it'll just say, you look at box 1, you look at box 2, and it'll just tell you what exercise you're doing the whole time. Like, yeah. So we did that, and then we're like, what if we put a video in there? So while I'm on the bike, I know like what I'm doing next. So I'll look at that. And I'm like doing the class and instructing it. And I'm like, what if we had an instructor who then just gets you all motivated, right?
Yeah.
So then we opened a gym and it started working. And people we didn't, because I was like, no one's paid for this. They've come, but it was kind of like I was talking of every reason not to do it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, they keep coming, but they're not paying anything. Well, worst case scenario, open a gym, nobody pays for, or something.
Yeah.
And I'll sublease it, And then, but it worked, and people kept doing it. So then that was one where I'm like, all right, this is working. And then I went and tried Barry's. I was in New York, and I look across the street, and the hotel, there's a Barry's boot camp. And I'm like, well, I've heard of Barry's boot camp. Let's fucking check this out. So I go do it, and I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever they tell me to do. I'm gonna do as hard as I can, because I want to see, am I in good shape from doing this? And I'm like, yes, this is good. And the instructor got distracted, which means we had to do this for way longer because they didn't have this pace with these buzzers and this that would just keep so in ours, even if the instructor is helping you with like form, there's buzzers and sounds and all this shit which still keeps everyone moving.
Yeah.
All right, these guys are pretty well known. Let's do it. So we just started putting more.
How many of those are there now?
There's 5 now. So 3 in LA and 2 in the Bay Area.
Man, how cool.
So then now we're like, okay, well, but with everything. So there's some we spent too much opening them. It takes you a while to figure out what is it, right?
Of course.
It starts off as this thing that's like looks one way, and then it gets fancier because you see like SoulCycle's doing really well. We better have all the amenities that SoulCycle has, and that's all of a sudden it's like, how the fuck did we spend so much on this gym?
Yeah.
You go back, but it's just a process, right? So then in the end, it's like, all right. So now we're like, we took that, or I had when I was in Atlanta for when I was starting Zappos, I looked online. Who's selling shoes online? There's this company, Friedman Shoes. They sold like these oversized, like 15 and above, like gaiters and like athletic shoes and stuff, mostly like exotic skin shoes and stuff. And it was for athletes because they were like, people size 13 and up have a hard time finding a selection of shoes. Yeah. So they had this legendary store in Atlanta, and team buses would just go through there and just load up all the time. And I flew out there to meet with them this is when I was like, can I take pictures of your shoes and sell them? And the guy took me to dinner, and we went to some steakhouse, and I'm like, what's good? He's like, the nachos are good. I'm like, the nachos? We're in a fucking steakhouse. So everyone gets the nachos. Yeah. So there was like world wraps at the time, right, where you get a burrito, and it'd be like an Italian burrito or a Thai chicken burrito or like a Indian burrito, whatever it was. Yeah. That was what they had. Their concept was for nachos, but they were on like kettle chips. And I was like, wait a minute, I want to open a restaurant that's all about nachos. Like, if that's what people are ordering at this place. Yeah. So that was one where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
Did you do that too, or no?
I did, but it took me 17 years. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then 2005, when I was starting to get bored of Zappos, I was like in Vegas. I met a guy that I knew from San Francisco who was running a couple food courts. I'm like, I want to do the nacho idea. So I called my buddy James. I'm like, come out here and let's open this nacho restaurant and food court. So he came out, we were going to do it, and then he's like, I'm not getting my wife to move to Vegas to open a fucking nacho restaurant and food court. All right, fuck, well, I got a job, Zappos, so I can't do it. So then, but then, like, what was it, 2.5 years ago, I was at home, I was like, this restaurant became available, and I'm like, I gotta do this nacho thing. But it morphed, because, so my wife's Mexican, and she's more like, we don't want to do the world wraps thing. Like, we'd gone to Puerto Vallarta a lot, and there's this Pancho's Tacos, which is just insane, like the best tacos.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And I'm like, let's just do like, nachos, tacos, burritos, salads. So we opened that, and then, with the Warriors. So I was lucky enough to be part of the Warriors ownership group. And so I had been telling them for years, like, hey, back to that thing about you can't see yourself. Like, when I look in the mirror, I'm like, fuck, I'm old, I'm 45. But when I'm not looking at myself, I'm pretty convinced I'm in my early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I'm still the same kid that goes to the game and is beelines for the store to get some Warriors gear, and like there's not enough for me.
Yeah.
Like, if all these people out here making like their own version of Warriors gear, you need a store like the Giants dugouts where they have like all the players' shoes in the blue and yellow colorways, and like, and this is, mind you, this is 2010 when the Warriors are still terrible, but it's like maybe one day. So he puts me in touch with the person. He's like, would you be willing to do an Adidas store? I'm like, no, because at the time, Adidas is not cool.
Yeah.
And like,
Look at
this
them
is the whole
now.
problem. Your store is an Adidas store.
Yeah.
I want to be able to sell Nike and all this other shit. And then,
True.
but then a few years later, he's like, I liked that. I liked that idea. And I was like, I still like that idea. So, we opened that store, and then it's like from that led to getting, we can get a license. And then, but I couldn't say there's a clear plan for all these things.
Yeah.
It's just kind of start
It's just following the next step.
doing it. What I realized was the stress of Zappos was that you've got this thing, and the bigger it gets, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but it doesn't feel like the chances of it failing are decreasing. So then you start having these weird thoughts that you can't avoid of like, I put all this fucking time and effort in this, and it's gonna be all for nothing.
Yeah.
And then there's employees, right, like, I deserve this because I've worked here for so long. So what happened with Basecamp was actually we opened the first one in Burlingame. And right after I opened it, I had a friend in Vegas, and he was like, what are you doing? I go, I'm at this gym. He goes, huh. So he comes, tries it, and he's like, dude, this would be great in Vegas. All right, let's do one in Vegas. I didn't have a plan at this point. I just opened one. Where should we put it? So we put it in this place. It wasn't a great location, this, that, and the other. In hindsight, you can make a bunch of excuses. But we thought it was a good idea, else we wouldn't have opened it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't working. And it was like, fuck, this isn't working. Like another thing that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of like, but this one's really working in Burlingame. That one's not working.
Yeah.
And then we had a manager, probably part of the reason it wasn't working was always complaining, like, we should do things differently. So finally that manager was like, can we, somehow it came about, why don't you buy the gym then and you do things your way? So we took it over and took over the lease. So we got out of it, and I realized that's failure. We just failed. But this one's still alive. And like, now let's go open one in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was like, I was like, wow. So you can start things, not everything's gonna work, but you could start things where it doesn't matter if one of them fails, as long, you just, all right, fine. Even if 10% of the things don't work, I still got 9 out of 10 that are working.
Yeah.
So I kind of became fascinated with that. Also became fascinated with like places you could just walk into and like in the community, people were like, hey, thanks for doing this, or hey, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
So eventually I was like, all right, I've got so many random ideas that are all over the place. I gotta find a way to, like, part of my problem is how do they all make sense?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna put this company together, so we call it Faded Brands. I was watching Vikings, and then one of them's like, it was faded, and I'm like,
there it
it's
is.
fucking destiny. So then but then all those things so I started the franchising process for all of them. So I'm like, now I can just come up with these processes, or these ideas. I can start a location, and if I can make that one successful, then I can franchise it. I don't have to open them all myself. I could still open them more myself.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden it's like, and it doesn't, what they'll have in common is they'll be gathering places for the community.
Yeah.
Right? Because people will be like, dude, you opened a gym and then you opened a nacho restaurant? Like, what are you trying to do to us? We work out and then we come over here. Okay, well, if they just have gathering the community in common, because we have this soccer team we started and all this stuff, like, and I can franchise all of them, then I have a company that now, all these random ideas all make sense together.
Yeah. I get it.
And so we did a podcast with Dennis and I with Daniel Cormier, that's what we're talking about.
Got it.
It's Talk and Talker, but we're just sitting there. It's fun, right? DC's the star of that thing. We're just sitting there having a great time with him. Yeah. And we're talking about MMA. And I'd always thought, like, I want to do something that's like is there something we could do that has like more meaning or whatever, right? So then I started listening to your stuff, and then I listened to the Business and Biceps guys.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I could see talking about this stuff if it makes sense in some way of like helping people do that.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna those guys, Business and Biceps guys, called me the startup addict.
Yeah. Oh, they told me that too.
So they're like,
Yeah, they texted me that too.
don't take this the wrong way, but we want you to do a podcast called the Startup Addict. I'm like,
So good.
don't take that
That's
the wrong way.
good.
That's pretty good. I wouldn't have thought of that.
That's a great compliment.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. All these things, you've had success beyond like most people's wildest dreams. You've also tried all these different things. Like you have, I don't know. I just think your range of sort of knowledge and experience is in a very small percentile. My question is like, do you ever think about what you want your legacy to be, or what you want your, like when you're 80 years old and you're like, you know what? That's what. Do you ever think about that, or is that too like?
The only time I think about it is like through, like my son. You know, you'll think things like you'll think about mortality and all that stuff. And you'll be like, man, what if this happened, right? So, I feel like a little more urgency to like document some things and like make things and start thinking about like, what can I make for him? You know, like where he doesn't have to, but he might be like, oh, let's do these things. But I don't know. I mean, I think like what I finally got the realization was I'm just an idea guy. And like I spent a lot of time apologizing for that, or I'm internally being like, fuck, I got to learn how to fucking read this spreadsheet because it's driving me crazy. I can read a spreadsheet, but I learn how to create the spreadsheet or whatever. But it's like, why? You know, like there's plenty of people that can read spreadsheets.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there's such a strength and clarity in like finally realizing what your thing is and just focusing on that thing and realizing who needs to be in place to help you execute that thing. You know what I mean? Whether you're a numbers guy and just accepting that you're a numbers guy and stop trying to build brands. You know what I mean? Or I just think like that's a big thing that I see over and over and over again where people really like thrive. You know what I mean?
and a lot of it's like from the podcast, all the different people you've interviewed when I was listening, because I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Like if I was used to listen to podcasts, it was basketball podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the people I would listen to and I'd be like captivated by their story and I'd be like, dude. But then at the same time I'd be like I'm always fascinated with all these young people that you're interviewing. They're so, I've got this plan, I've got all these details worked out and I got this. And I'm like, wow, man, I could never do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But then you start thinking like, then you start talking to people and they'll be like, hey, it's not good or bad, but you have a different way of looking at things, like, right? Like you don't have so it's like, I always feel like, you're not afraid of trying something.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of trying shit. It's just, it lasts 3 seconds and then I want to try it more.
Yeah.
Like I have all the doubts and all this is stupid and like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. And yeah, if I say something, I know you have to put it out there for it to become real. And then there's times where you like put it out there and you're like, everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? What did I do that? I should have just not said anything. And back to that same thing.
Yeah.
They would all think I was smarter.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, it's like, so what? Like I could, you know?
It's just amazing to me that one of those ideas could be a failed idea. You feel stupid. You feel like people are laughing at you. The next one of those ideas could be Zappos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the failed ones burn more than the pride from Zappos.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that is true. That sucks.
Like
that's a shitty way that we're wired.
Yeah.
And that's, I believe, right, that's our wiring to remember danger, right? From our sort of, so that we remember the danger and don't hit it again and when we're running from saber-toothed tigers and back in the day.
Yeah.
But damn it, it's not fair.
No, it burns, but it burns in a way it's like, once you get through the like, why does it burn?
Yeah.
Just because it sucked.
You think you've
like,
been able to...
not because like, you know, it doesn't make me dumber or, you know, different or it just didn't work. And then you could look at it and you go, now the worst I think is if there's times you realize I should have just kept pushing on that one.
Yeah.
That one could have been something or that one would better. And then it's like, okay, we'll fucking write that down next time, you know, try to do that next time. So I just think, I don't think there's anything more fun than trying to start stuff.
That's so true.
You know, and I also go back to, I always think, people always go, well, yeah, like, you know, like for my financial advisor, if I fuck something up, he'll be like, well, good news is you still had Zappos.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah. But then people will be like, yeah, well, you can afford to fuck it up or you can afford to start these things. And I'm like, dude, you could have gone to a shoe store and started taking pictures.
Yeah.
I didn't you know, and like I scraped together money, but like yes, not everyone can scrape together $150,000, but I didn't go. People will be like, I don't know anyone with $150,000. Neither did I. I knew a whole bunch of people with $2,500 and $500,000.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know some of them. I just had to talk it out because a lot of people are like, I can't talk about my idea because like everyone's gonna steal it, right? Of
course.
And then I also think like, so the gym, okay. The Airdyne bike cost $700. Like, it was. I started in my garage. You could get a $700 bike. You could get a couple dumbbells and a couple mats, and you could start training people. Like, you could look at someone else's workout and be like, I could do the same thing, right? So there's some things you can't. Like the restaurant, you need a certain amount of money to open the restaurant.
It's just amazing. There's just I mean, no matter what, in almost all these stories, and even with myself included, like, there's two types of people. There's the people that are going to go out and risk looking like an idiot and take the chances and look like an idiot and maybe stumble upon something and maybe have success, right? Even that's obviously not guaranteed for those people.
Yeah.
And then there's the people that are going to sit and wait to explain why you're successful and they're not, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because almost everyone, I deal with it, and it bothered me for years. It doesn't anymore, but it did for a long time. It was always, oh, if you weren't on TV, if you weren't this, if you weren't that, you wouldn't have whatever. I was like, okay. So when I was younger, that bothered me. It also wasn't until I realized that literally everyone has their version of that. You know what I mean? Almost everyone I talk to, and sometimes I'll look at people and be like I look at a guy like you, and I'm like, I can't imagine you have a care in the world. You know what I mean? But it's nice talking and realizing that there's also things that bother you, and there's also people that try to take away your success and try to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No matter what you do, people are going to try to take something from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's good. I think the only good thing about it is people who are achieving and people who are in the arena, as the famous quote is, can at least bond on it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's an unavoidable thing.
And even like beyond that, one thing that took me a while to realize is like, what's most important to everyone is what's important to them, right? So like, especially when you start companies, and especially if you, like, I'm gonna start companies that I think of, and that I fund, and I want this. You get a little selfish and you think like, no, I want it to be that way, and I want it to be that way. And then you realize every person in there is having all that's important to them, as it should be, is their experience within this. And that's a trip. Because then you're like, you know, you look at Zappos and you go, man, there was 2,000 people that had a different experience.
Yeah.
But it's all their Zappos experience.
Yeah.
It's not like, you don't get to talk about Zappos because like you only came along and did X, Y, Z. It's like all
it's true.
useful. But don't never stop. Like there's starting a new company called SurfCat, right? So it's a coffee company. And I was like, I feel like all the coffee companies are the same. I was like, you can't start a fucking coffee company. Well, I could. I mean, right? Like,
no,
I could just come up with this, what I think is a fun logo, and I could come up with this. Then I'm like, you know what? We were looking to open a coffee shop, and I'm like, well, it's not gonna be ready till like September, the space. I was like, what if we just deliver coffee, right? So I'm like, we realized afterwards, I'm like, wait, we bought these scooters, like those, what's the brand of the little razor scooters, electric things? It costs $350.
Yep.
Then you buy a coffee brewer. It costs $100 to make 100. It costs 100 cups. You buy some coffee, and like you buy some cups.
Yeah.
Like I remember thinking, dude, for less than $600, all we got to do now is go around the local businesses and be like, we deliver coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
There
it's
you
not
go.
that
You're in business.
it's not that simple.
Yeah.
But that was what I realized is like, man, some people they don't seem to understand that. Like they're making it wait. Now, if you have to work during the day, then maybe you can't do that during the day, right? But like, there's still
always
like
a way,
this.
though.
There's
always a,
yeah,
you know,
there's always the way.
Yeah.
And what I realized is like, okay, I've come full circle. Now I only like start things like that. I don't want to start something if someone's like, if you could invest like $3 million into this, it'd be great. And like, I don't want to fucking invest $3 million in anything. I don't want to like, you know, I just want to see things.
Yep.
So anyways, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. And
No, I get it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Here's my big ender. You've lived a hell of a life, and you're a smart fucking guy. If you could, you maybe have done this with your son. If you could go back to the childhood version of yourself and tell yourself one little nugget of wisdom that would maybe alleviate a lot of the pointless worry or a lot of the fear or a lot of whatever, is there anything that you've gathered from all this time that you think would take the weight off?
No, it's funny, right? Nick from Basecamp on the way over here, he's like, if he asked you the question about being a kid, what are you going to say? Fuck, I never thought about that.
So true. That's my ender.
I was like, I think for me, I would look at it like, I was super lucky, right? I could have been born into anything, right? I could have been born into war or extreme poverty, all these things. I was born into a good, stable situation.
Yep.
So most of my worries or problems were mostly centered around what other people thought, whether it's personal or business, right? You're making a decision, your brain's telling you to do this, but you're like, they're gonna laugh at this, or I think I should do this, right? Or, oh, I can't do that because they think that, or stressing out in high school about something that someone else probably thinks, right? So what I always try to tell my son is like, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks, right? Like just be nice to everyone and just whatever makes sense to you, just do it. And like, and don't tell anyone that what you're doing is better, right? If everyone's doing what they think, everyone should be doing what they think is best, right? So I look at that, and that's the main thing is like, I feel like I had this moment through, trial and error, and also through this weird Minecraft thing. It's like, hey, we're all just here to like create our own world, right? Like that's all it is.
So you just gotta simplify.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you can simplify the message, it's like, oh, that does. It's always those things that hits you the hardest, right? Where you're like, oh, it is just that at the end of the day.
And also, don't be that guy. Even when people that work for you or are trying to do something, they're trying to do the same thing. So you can't be the guy that's like, that's ridiculous. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because they're just their brain is telling them this is what I should do.
Yeah.
So I just try to do that, and then. But that's that, and then just relax. I always think everyone in Hawaii is playing a cruel joke on us.
Yeah.
And like we're all gonna get to the end, and we're gonna be like, what the fuck? Why weren't we just like
that's very possible.
Hanging out on the beach,
Yep.
looking at the sunset every day, having a piece of land which we lived off of, like
very true.
What is the difference gonna be?
Yeah. It's unclear still. Let me know if you find out.
Yeah.
What about anywhere you want to send people? Any sites, social media, Basecamp?
Yeah, we have I think it's Instagram. It's at Basecamp Fitness, at Nacho Ria, at Dunk Contest. FatedBrands.com is the new website, and then we've got at Talkin' Talkers, the podcast with DC, who's much more interesting than me. Dennis
is that up
more
now?
Interesting too. Yeah, we haven't done one in a couple. He disappears whenever he goes into a fight, so we go away for a while.
Yeah.
And then, and to try to, you've inspired me. I'm gonna try to do a new podcast, and that's gonna be At the Startup Addict.
Please, I'm in. I'm subscribed.
So,
do you do any social media yourself or not really?
I have a Twitter that I started just because I was trying to do this soccer team in San Francisco.
Yep.
And I needed to kind of like be present with like the soccer community and reply to things and do all that.
Got it.
But generally, I like to. And I don't have Facebook, or I don't have a personal Instagram or any of that stuff.
So the podcast will be it.
If you search for it, there's probably a million that I've reserved over time. So like all I do is like idea, domain, social media tags, like this.
I'd love to see your list of what is it? Go to your GoDaddy account. I mean, it's like
it'd be ridiculous.
A phone book.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Thank you. You absolutely crushed it.
No,
thank you
for having
doing
us.
this. This was really cool. Shout out to Luke.
Awesome.
Luke,
Luke's
have
gonna be
fun
happy.
at school today. Do a good job and stay focused. You can be whatever you want to be, Luke.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That was great.
So.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. All right, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that was a long one, but damn it, it was good. And it was just filled with so much good information. He's just an easy guy to talk to and did such a good job. I hope you guys liked it. Like I said, continue to share, continue to post this on your Instagram story, post it on social media, tell your friends. Let's keep building this following. I'm just going to keep doing bigger and better interviews. Leave me feedback on the iTunes store, the podcast app on your phone. Check out my newsletter, ynr.la/drama. Subscribe. My YouTube, youtube.com/drama. youngandreckless.com. Use the promo code SSL for 40% off all full-priced items. My new show, Group Chat, is on YouTube and on iTunes. And hit me up on Instagram. That's where I'm doing all my chatting. That's where I'm doing all my engaging. That's where I'm responding to all my comments, all my DMs. That's just drama, @drama on Instagram. Thank you guys. You're the best audience in the whole wide world. I will see you next week. Guys, if you like that and you want to see more like it, as well as vlogs, other web series, and all the random stuff that I'm doing here on YouTube, don't forget to click that subscribe button. You won't regret it. I promise.